Whoops, hit the wrong button, but I guess we'll start a little bit early anyway. Um, Everybody, welcome back into another Fear the Old Lore stream of Elden Ring version 1.00. Hope you're all doing well. I actually need to make my announcement. It's what I get for pressing the wrong button. So, give me 1 second here. Alright, there we go. Alright, yeah. Hope everyone's doing well. So where we finished off last time was pretty much going through all of Stormveil and exploring that castle. We started off talking a little bit about the architecture of Castle Mourn. So what we're going to do this stream is hit up a few of the last NPC quests that we have left to do in Limgrave, and then we're going to head back down to the Weeping Peninsula and go through Castle Morne and do Irina's quest. So I left this off next to Yura to remind me to go fight Edgar and to go see Bach. So yeah. Rat and Cantrell, nice to see both of you again. Hope you're all doing well. Alright, so somebody had said in order to get Yura's summon sign to appear, you need to die to Edgar first. Oh, I should probably level up if I can. Not that we should really need it against Edgar. So yeah, once we meet Bach and kill Edgar with Yura, we're going to go ahead and go to the Roundtable hold as well. Pauper's Rune? Okay. Platypus, welcome back in. Nice to see you. Alright. Okay, I'm actually more than 100 short this time around, so we'll just try to deal with Edgar. I gotta die to Edgar, and then the summon sign is kind of hidden in the plants. Okay. Mercy, nice to see you again. Oh yeah, I guess I should also show off like some of the weirder... I guess they're not really weird. Some of the interactions between like the demi-humans in this area and some of the random patrolling soldiers. Dragonburnt Ruins. So I think normally his summon sign is like around here. So once we get got by Edgar, hopefully it'll pop up. So the dragons do have... How many toes is it on their actual feet? Like 4 in the front, and if you count the thing in the back, that could potentially be 5. But... not a ton of real lore to be had with the feet in this game, or most of the FromSoft games. I know it's a pretty big meme that Miyazaki is obsessed with feet, which is kind of true because like the Maiden in Black from Demon's Souls didn't have shoes on, and it's just been kind of an ongoing meme ever since then. So it should be by that somewhere. Zealot, welcome in. The Erd tree was likely inspired by the world spiral tree. Yeah, or like the Yggdrasil in like real life mythology. Platypus says Radon kind of looks like Ganesha. Or Ganishka? I don't know if that's different than Ganesha. Alright. I don't see the summon sign, unfortunately. Maybe it's further out. Oh, wait, was it? Alright, yeah, no, I'm either blind or it just doesn't exist in this version of the game, which is unfortunate. I wonder if Igheel's incantation is the same. I don't remember if it's actually different or not. Oh, from Berserk. Okay. I was thinking of like the elephant dude in like the Hindu mythology. Oh. I should have dodged that. Go figure. Not dodging hurts. I should have known better than to try that. He actually does a decent amount of damage. Oops. I was not trying to telescope. I was trying to use that. Bruh. So, the first time I fought Smaragd... it kind of also fell to its death, but not really. I was going to say the first time I fought... Oh, this just gave me a dragon heart. It didn't even have... Wait, Igheel's Flame, you do have to go to the dragon communion place, never mind. For some reason, I thought it dropped the incantation. Maybe it does, maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, anyway, the first time I fought like Smaragd in the Moonlight Altar area, it dropped down... And I thought the game bugged, and it just, like, kept respawning, like, a couple extra times. But no, apparently there's just, like, 3 drakes over that way. And I didn't know any better. And so when Igheel just jumped up to the cliff like that, it just kind of gave me the flashbacks of being unable to attack a dragon from a distance. I still can't believe it just fell to its death like that. That's goofy. I wonder if they fixed that. Like, I would assume that they did, but I'd also... would not be surprised if they had not. So that was pretty cool. Saladoon, welcome back in. Teen Sith, nice to see you guys again. That happened in the network test. It's an old glitch. Your first Grail kill was because it got stuck on a tree and then slid it around midair until the auto kill timer went off. Oh yeah, speaking of auto kill timers, we'll probably encounter the torrent glitch at some point, where you just kind of like float in air and die. Okay, so they did fix that. That's good to know. Alright, so now Yura should hopefully have some really cool dialogue that kind of plays a lot into Bloodborne, to be honest. So, here we go.
Beautiful work. Felling that dragon. Now, there's something you might like to know. The heart you brought back. It's used in dragon communion. If you should find yourself overcome by hunger for the heart, yearning for its strength, then seek the decrepit church on the little island off the western coast. You must not forget, though, those who partake in dragon communion will one day shed their humanity, their hunger for dragon, their yearning only worsens until the floodgates burst, unleashing eternal torment, the strength of a mighty dragon, magnificent but deadly. It's no surprise that dragon communion is ruinous.
So this is some really big lore information that has kind of a little bit more implications for previous FromSoft games like Bloodborne. The concept of having like such a strong desire, a yearning till the floodgates burst open is directly analogous to the way that people transform in Bloodborne into beasts, because they keep consuming blood, which is kind of analogous to like golden runes in Elden Ring, to the point that like their desire for it just kind of overpowers their senses and they no longer become human. In Bloodborne, that isn't spelled out nearly as clearly as it is kind of here for Elden Ring, but Miyazaki does talk about the concept in one of his interviews, so that's kind of where we know that information came from. But it's also nice being able to like point to like a direct source of text to just kind of make those parallels a bit more clearly than having to rely on things completely outside of the games. So I do appreciate that they added that in there. But going back to Elden Ring more specifically, it does really fascinate me that continuing to consume dragon hearts is what causes people to transform. Since we did pick up that dragon heart, let's go ahead and read it and see how that ties in. Dragon heart seized by a dragon tracker. It has a bizarre shape modeled by gravel, and it continues to beat vivaciously. An offering used in the dragon communion. Consume a dragon's heart at the altar to make its power yours. While a terrible and savage-looking thing, the heart has a peculiar beauty to it. So, the hearts continue to beat vivaciously. I think the description's like slightly different, but overall it's pretty similar. The hearts continue to beat vivaciously, which shows that like the power within the gravel, aka like gold, keeps things alive when they normally wouldn't be on their own, I guess. So I've wondered if consuming dragon hearts means one is essentially consuming gold directly, and that's a little bit troublesome because how different is gold from a rune? Or if something else were to just continue to consume gold, would they begin to transform? For whatever ties you want to make into like blood and things like that, you could potentially bring up like Moog and or the Omen or like the Sanguine Nobles. They do also kind of transform potentially. I don't really know what to make of like the real Sanguine Nobles versus like the human one who invades you in the consecrated snowfield. But I'm trying to remember if there's any other like direct ties to consuming gold. I guess you could make the argument with like Rykard and snakes who consume their prey whole, but beyond that, I would mostly just point to like the ulcerated tree spirits and like the minor Erd trees and the Elden Beast potentially. All right.
You must not forget, though, those who partake in dragon communion
He'll just repeat that.
will one day shed their humanity, their hunger for dragon, until the flood the strength of a It's no surprise that...
Alright, so that's pretty much it for Yura for now. So now we'll go see Bach, and then we'll go to like the Dragon Communion Church, because those will just kind of naturally coincide. I should fast travel over there. Oh yeah, I didn't get any of the bonfires. Alright, Vacuous asks, why don't I like Ronnie's ending? I don't really know if I have a good reason. It just doesn't appeal to me. I think part of it is just like she claims she like kind of wants to do her own thing, and that's all well and good, and it's going to be a betrayal of everything else, but we don't ever really see or really learn about what those like the implications of her actions would be. So like I like her quest a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of the ending. Sanguine nobles are omen that lose form to their connections of the formless mother? Potentially. But I try not to like make super sweeping statements like that where I can avoid it. Is it this one? Or is it further along? It's over there, isn't it? I guess I should let him talk. Whatever.
What'd you go and do that for?
It's funnier when he's like, hey, help me, or like, I know you can see me, or something like that, and then he's like, why'd you do that, when he was literally asking for help.
Oh, yes. I remember. Some clod turned me into a tree. You were just breaking the spell, weren't you? Thank you. The name's Bok. I was pushed out of the cave. Told not to come back. Not ever. Then I ended up as a tree. Lucky you came along, really. Oh, what a shame. When they threw me out of the cave, they took everything I owned. And so this is all I have to express my thanks. I hope you can forgive me. Or, well, if you can afford to wait for a while, I could sneak back into the cave and bring back something of actual value, then I'd be of some real use to you, I reckon.
He's cute in a bestial way. I think it's canonical to the lore that he has a face that only a mother could love.
Right, but I'll need a moment. I'm frightened of them, so I have to gather myself. My knees start knocking, just thinking about that god-awful cave on the shore.
Cute in a bestial way.
Right.
Okay, so that's that. Nothing there for now. So that's his hint for us to go down there. We'll go back to the first step. Why I'm hating on the boy Bach? Because, he's a silly little thing. That's why. No real reason. Vacuous says, Ronnie is sus because she doesn't have any reaction to Blythe and Easy's death. Well, I mean, in her mind, I'm sure, like, in order to make an omelet, you have to crack some eggs. In order to make an order... Jeez, that's repetitive. You need to, crack a lands between.
It's time you set up.
Okay. I didn't think you said anything different. So once we go through here, I think we'll head to the Roundtable Hold and then go back on over to Castle Mourn. Oh yeah, and Teen Sith, you left towards the end of the stream last night. Rogier's corpse thing did not appear after we killed Godric, so it is probably linked to going to the Roundtable Hold. He's not ugly, he's beautiful. He's beautiful. You know, 10 out of 10 impression there. You think the truest example of someone being driven mad by the rune is Ronnie? Maybe, and that's... Well, no, she never got a rune. Because, she died before, like, the shattering happened and before the runes got spread. Although I guess you could make the argument her stealing part of the Rune of Death is getting a rune, but I don't really think that works.
What do you need? I don't want any trouble.
No, a lot of people think that Ronnie did, but when you go up to her corpse on top of the Divine Tower, it's just one half of the curse mark of death, so it's not like a real rune. Like according to the one story trailer, it says like the demigods got their runes like after the Elden Ring was shattered, so Ronnie should have died before that happened. Kerm, nice to see you again. How have you been? Doing really well, thank you. The funny thing is, even though I made that like badge for it, it just kind of looked like a teacup to me for a second, like a steaming teacup. I probably really need to like work on the badges and stuff. Although like the dimensions of them are like super small, so it's really hard to make them like stand out. Oh, this dude has the astrologer's staff. Alright. We have the finger seal. Right, let's see if there's any cool lore. Wouldn't be from this though. I think we've already checked this one, right? Halberd. Alright, nothing too much there. Nothing there. Alright. So Astrologer's Staff says, Staff of the Stonecrafters, explorers infatuated with gemstones. This catalyst for casting sorceries has a glintstone set in its tip. Glintstone sorceries, blah, blah, blah. So that's a little bit different. Obviously, in the retail build of the game, they don't call them Stonecrafters, and they don't mention gemstones specifically. But if they are Stonecrafters, I wonder if that's like an older nod to like the claymen with that like dig in the tunnels and stuff. I doubt that, but that's just kind of like one thing that just immediately pops up into mind. So this is the finger seal. It's a sacred seal given by maidens of the finger readers, which serves as a catalyst for casting sacred incantations. Very straightforward there. Thief garb, vest worn by followers of the deadly birds. So that's pretty different, and it might relate into obviously like the death birds, but I'm trying to remember who has the thief garb. It's not Patches' followers. I don't think the Ravenmount assassin does. But maybe he has part of it? I don't remember. Alright. I'll probably need to look into that a little more deeply.
Well, be on your way then.
Alright. So yeah. The merchant's items are slightly different, and I'll try to remember to go see like some of the other ones in the different locations, like the guy on the southwest portion of Castle Mourne's peninsula, or the Weeping Peninsula rather. You think the conflict between Ranni and the Black Knives is her screwing up Godwin's death and abandoning them? I have a lot of questions about it, because if Ranni and Godwin died at the same time, how come we don't see like Ranni next to his corpse or anything? I wonder if it's like a more metaphysical thing. And this is like really, really deep lore that I don't believe for a second, but I've just like legitimately wondered, is if Ranni and Godwin may have been like connected, perhaps in a similar way to like Marika and Radigan. Oh, I whiffed. Okay. Oh, it juked me. So typically I just try to go in front of its path and then meet it. But apparently I'm terrible at this game, or at least with this weapon. So I know it jukes there. There we go. So we get the stamp sweep Ash of War. Trent says he thought Gideon said Ranni discarded the rune. I'm pretty sure he does say that, but I think there are multiple times where Gideon thinks something to be the case that doesn't actually turn out to be true. So despite him calling himself the all-knowing, his knowledge is flawed at times. We got a Kaiden boy on the beach. This guy is still in retail as well. Strip of white flesh. Maybe he was cooking. Her mother, siblings, and loyal friends were all fair game, so she could rule. Oh, like America for Ranni? Yeah. Okay, Thief Garb is the bandit set sold by Gustak. I regret not seeing or double checking Gustak's inventory this version of the game. Katie, welcome in. We saw Yura, we fought Eggheel, we got the Dragon Heart, and we talked to Bach. So now we're going to go through the cave to help out Bach a little bit more. And then we're also going to go to the First Church of Dragon Communion, or whatever you want to call it. I love the Twin Blade. This is my first time using it, so I'm a little unskilled, we can say, with them. Supposedly Ranni didn't want to be an Empyrean, which is why she burned her body and took over a marionette body. Yeah, well, I think she didn't want to be a puppet of the Two Fingers, but she's still an Empyrean. Well, I guess that depends on whether you think Empyreans have to be chosen by the Fingers.
It hurts. Oh. What are you doing here? You must leave this place at once. They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. You'll end up just like me. Oh. What are you doing here? You must leave this place at once. They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. You'll end up just like me.
So that's pretty straightforward. Once you like do this stuff, Bach says a bit more. Did I? No, I did not. In Ranni's ending, the Erd Tree burns and the Elden Ring isn't repaired. Is Bach's audio low quality compared to the other game sound?
Oh. What are you doing here? You must leave this place at once.
Maybe it's just my stream settings, because I don't have like the best streaming setup, unfortunately. But it sounds okay to me. I would put on my torch. I should have gone and bought the lantern. I would put on the torch, but I guess I am going to put on the torch because I can't see a damn thing. I'm going to be fat rolling. I need to level up endurance next, I guess. Oh, wait. I can level up once now. You wonder if the Istvan summon is available. It should be at the boss fog. I don't remember seeing Istvan when I came here with like the day one patch, but I might have missed it, to be fair. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. I don't think that's enough for me. Yeah, still heavy. That could probably take... Nope. Okay. I really need the lantern. Or at least the spell to be able to see. Alright. My voice is okay, but his is really crispy? Interesting. Okay. Because it sounds fine through my stuff, so I'm assuming it's probably just like my audio bitrate, or maybe like the capture card or something. How does like the music sound? Everything else sounds fine though? Some lore YouTuber said Ronnie was Empyrean because she's female. Might have been body. I don't think Empyreans have to be female, because isn't Mikola technically an Empyrean? Well, I guess, you know, that kind of relates to some questions of like gender identity, but as far as I know, Mikola counts as male. Stab the big boy. When Bach talks, it sounds like your headphone jack is having issues, but not for any other system sound. That's wild. Okay, that's interesting. Thanks for letting me know, though. Oh boy. The land octopus ovary. That's actually some really cool lore stuff right there. Mikola's an Empyrean. You get the impression that Mikola may be both, like how Marika is both Marika and Radigan. I understand what you're saying with that, but I do feel like Mikola is different. Although maybe he does have like a legitimate split personality with like Saint Trina. I guess we don't really know. I guess that's fair. Alright, what was I looking up? The ovary. Puffy, milky, white ovary of a land octopus. Material used for crafting items. Land octopuses eat humans in order to bear young, and theirs is the blood that runs through these ovaries. So this is really fascinating to me, and I think it relates to the strip of white flesh that we have right here that says they're taken from bloodless creatures. The land octopi also drop the strips of white flesh, so I guess they could be qualified as bloodless, whatever that really means in Elden Ring. And if they need human blood to reproduce, I wonder if it's because like there's gold in the blood and therefore like will in the blood, and you need a will to merge with like spirits to actually bear life and young. I don't exactly know the intermingling. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to use right now. I don't know how they like, or I don't know how they intersect, I guess, or are interconnect. But if we go by the whole idea that the turtleneck meat says their urge to reproduce is waned long ago, that might also get counteracted with the land octopus ovary, although that's not really like the reproductive urge, perhaps. But either way, what I'm trying to say is there do still seem to be births continuing, even in this sorry state of the lands between. Yeah, and as Platypus says, maybe bloodless means animals that don't have red blood. That's kind of how I view it, because at least in real life, like certain animal groups like crustaceans don't have hemoglobin in their blood. So I don't know if there's like a linguistic difference with like Japanese and how that's treated, or if it's just kind of more fantasy stuff. Like, I'm not a biologist, so I don't like know the etymological roots of how like the word for blood is really understood in Japan. To be fair, I guess I could like do like an etymology search, but I think it's just more of like a fantastic setting type of thing. Katie says, in his video, he technically says that all the gods have to be female, which you also disagree with, but more because of the fellow god who's always been shown as a masculine figure. So, I think there's like a difference between like a god in the sense of America and the sense of like the fellow god. And I think to defend his point of view, he means it more as like the vessel of the vision of the greater will or whatever, as opposed to just like an outer god type deal. But yeah, I don't necessarily know if the god of like the Elden Ring needs to be female. It seems that way. There's like the weird dichotomy between like having a maiden and not having a maiden to consider. And it's kind of funny. We had like a discussion about this on the Discord server like a week or so ago about like whether or not women could be lords, which I thought was a little bit silly because like the player character can be female, so I digress. Correspond, maybe that was the word, Ludi. And also welcome into the stream again. You think Mikola and Melania's birth reflect the rune of death being removed from relating to stagnation? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Alright, let's fight some enemies and then I'll catch up again with the chat. You guys are moving quick tonight. Wait. I didn't see any of the summon sign things over there. Maybe I should die on purpose. So we get some silver fireflies. I'll definitely talk about those. Let's get got just to see if Istvan shows up. Just because I'm gonna die doesn't mean I can't get some runes from spamming R1, right? Alright. Kinchell says, that's why it seems more the case Radigan in America became one, not always one. Her having two selves or souls would be too notable to go unstated. Plus one is genetic versus magic/spiritual. Yeah, and one other question that comes up along with that is whether or not having two souls is like part of the directive of the Golden Order because of like D being accepted by the Golden Order but like refused by everything else, I guess. I don't really know what to make of that, but I guess that is something to consider. Ludi says there's a theme of reproductive difficulties, like how a flower is dependent on a butterfly in order to breed. Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about like the flowers requiring like butterflies specifically to propagate themselves. I should think about that one more. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, because Melina in the fight against Morgott can use a cut spell that's like Miranda's prayer, which is the kind of beam type spell that the Miranda flowers use. So maybe there is something to that a little bit with like flowers and butterflies, if she is supposed to be related to the smoldering butterfly. I mean, obviously that's a really big stretch, but I don't know. Very interesting. Katie gave their thoughts on what should be counted as a god in Discord a while ago. Teen Sith says, the Lord is technically a gender-neutral term, refers historically to a person whose noble status was bequeathed, if you're remembering correctly. Lady came later. And yeah, like in Japanese, the term for Lord is Ol, which is like monarch, essentially. So, obviously has more masculine connotations, because like it's kind of the equivalent to king. And queen is typically Joel, which is like female monarch, but It is still technically ambiguous. UK has the Houses of Lords, which is kind of interesting since feudalism was banned there. That's funny. Oh yeah, so there is no summon sign here. It doesn't seem like we've had summon signs at all yet. So maybe we won't get Millicent later on, but we'll see. I wonder if these are aggro immediately now. Nope. Okay. You forgot about Dean, his brother. He is actually one soul separated. And one of the weirder things to me about Dean in particular is that it says they have 2 minds but 1 soul. So, like, there's a lot of stuff that would suggest that the soul could be related to the mind specifically, but then that just kind of flies in the face of it, I guess. Lily brings it up because you see the theme with the land octopus ovary and even the jar people in a way. Crunchy, welcome back in. Isn't the Japanese 2 bodies, 2 wills, 1 soul? Like Ishi? Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly, I believe that's right. I don't necessarily think that mind is a terrible translation for it, but I guess in the context of Elden Ring, that might be considerable. What I mean by that is, like, if the mind is unrelated to the will, which does definitely seem plausible, as what's the word? Counterintuitive as that may seem, that might actually be a pretty big factor for things. Tailoring tools and the sewing needle. Alright, yeah. Actually, let me look that up real quick. Oops. What's it called? Twinned armor set? Not twabbed. Yeah, Futatsu no Shintai, Futatsu no Ishi. So, they're of 2 bodies and of 2 wills. So it isn't technically mind, maybe in like the Western sense of the word. But maybe saying Western sense is also a bit like too strong of terminology for me to say. And it's more like probably something more specific to like FromSoft games where like the will isn't necessarily the mind. It's kind of weird because I don't know like how familiar you guys might be with the idea of kokoro, or like the heart / mind in Japanese. I don't know if like the ishi is counted in that, at least in terms of like FromSoft games or in general. That's just the kind of stuff that I'm like don't know about like it like to that degree. All right, yeah. So if the audio gets crispy, it might just be like my upload speed. Honestly, it's not the best. Hopefully it's not too bad for you guys, but thanks for letting me know. Vacuous thinks that Morgott gets accepted by the Erdtree when he dies. Oh, since he gets turned into Grace and all his horns are removed. I don't know. That might also have to deal with Godfrey, because he doesn't really turn back into gold until Godfrey picks him up. So maybe Godfrey gets his grace back. It's a little bit weird. Stuffy, welcome back in. What's the idea of the Ishi about? So we were talking about how D has 2 bodies and 2 minds in the English text for the twinned armor set, but the Japanese doesn't use like the word for mind there, like seishin, which is like, well, maybe that's not the right version of mind to use right there. Anyway, pedantry aside, it doesn't say that he has like mind in the sense that it's written in English. It says that he has 2 bodies and 2 wills. And the reason that's relevant is because wills are tied to gold a little bit more specifically in Elden Ring than souls. And souls might be more related to the mind in terms of like the intellect and like higher order thought. So D might still only have one soul and therefore like one actual mind in terms of like the way that Elden Ring works. So I guess that could be a pretty big discrepancy between the English and Japanese text. But it's not the kind of thing that you can like make a direct translation comparison to and just like really come to that conclusion. So it really takes a lot of context to set up, and it still might not actually be the case. We're probably like need to suss that out or come to our own interpretations about it. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Crunchy. Crunchy says, if he remembers correctly, Radigan took Renala's Kokoro with him, whereas the Greater Will is the Big Ishi. Oh yeah, and that's a good point. I don't know why I just blanked on like the Greater Will is like the Greater Ishi, like the will is Ishi there. So definitely linked to gold as opposed to like the soul, which might be more like primeval current related and separate from like gold and amber because there's like all the blue amber and stuff. Teen Sith says, anyway, there's several historic examples of female monarchs using the male royal title, Hatshepsut being the most famous. Yeah. Cantrell says, so they separate emotion from mind/thought. That would make sense given the concept is still used today. Yes, and that's also an excellent way to say that, to be honest, because I tend to take some of this information for granted, but like the idea behind the like hexes specifically is that they're the leftover emotions of people that like are unwilling to pass on. Like that's kind of like the concept of like a curse or like a ghost in like Japanese mythology. If you look up the term like onryo in like Google or something, you'll probably be able to find a couple good resources to like do some research into. But basically, like one's resentment ties them to the world, and they can't pass on to the afterlife. And that concept is shared in common with like the idea of poltergeist here in the West. But for whatever reason, like people don't really think of ghosts or like hexes that way quite a lot when like analyzing the lore, but it's pretty well understood, or like cultural context that's just taken for granted, I guess, in like Japanese or like Eastern players. But yeah, grudge is a great word for that. Welcome back to the stream, Walter. Nice to see you again. Gold is also the star thing, and by extension the primeval current, Estelle's body is made from blue and gold orbs. Didn't they use that concept in Kuon? Probably. I know of Kuon, but I didn't like actually look at a playthrough or play it myself yet. And Morta says kind of like Agony from Five Nights at Freddy's. Of course, FNAF reference there. Alright, so where did we just pick up? The sewing needle as well as the tools. A generic sewing needle, if given to a seamster, it can be used to lighten one's gear. A simple portable sewing kit can be used to lighten one's gear at sites of lost grace. Very straightforward stuff. Oh yeah, and then we picked up the silver firefly. Firefly that gives off a silvery light. Found near bodies of cold water untouched by sunlight. The light of fireflies is believed to have an alluring magic. Silver light is considered to invite riches. So that's kind of contrary to the golden ones, which are found near minor Erd trees. This is really fascinating to me because the lack of sunlight makes something that would potentially normally be gold and turn it silver? Or is it that enough exposure to gold turns something gold? I don't really know. And once we get the glintstone fireflies, I'll talk about those ones as more, because I think we're like on the cusp of like being able to like come to like some pretty big conclusions to like the general mechanics of some of the like the deeper stuff with like glintstone, silver, and gold through the fireflies, but just not quite there, unfortunately. At least that's how I feel about it. Alright, so I'm going to go to the Dragon Communion Church and then teleport back into the cave to talk to Bach. If I can see. there another one? I hear breathing. I really wish I had the lantern. Alright. That's alright, Mortis. You don't need to elaborate about Five Nights at Freddy's. I would be out of my element, to say the least. Oh yeah, so this is probably the best vantage to get a look at the cliffs going to Stormveil when you compare it to the one painting in the castle. Maybe I should go back to Stormveil and show that off after I talk to Bach, I guess. So if we look from this angle, we've got the Divine Tower on the right. We can even see the cliff of the mountaintops of the giants and the kiln in the background. We could see the other Divine Tower, which isn't that big a deal. So the angle is slightly different. We'd need to be further east to completely match up the one Stormveil painting. But very clearly the Erd Tree should be between the Divine Tower and the cliffs that have Stormveil. But it's not in that painting, as well as the castle not being there. And of course, it could be an artist rendition of if that stuff wasn't there, but that would also just be extremely weird for being in the game. And it could also just be pre-concept art that got included into the game, but I don't know. If you look at a lot of the other concept art, they're ridiculously detailed, and it just really stands out and kind of bothers me that it was included into the game. It could be a dev mess up, but I don't know. It's not how I personally feel about it. Alright. Crunchy says, the other weird thing about D is how the silver brother is only underground, whereas the gold one is above ground or in Roundtable hold. That's an interesting way of looking at them. I never thought of one as being silver and the other as gold, but that would also really match up with their twinned armor set motif. Could use an Aldia-style lore dump character in the DLC? True. Yeah, Aldia did explain a ton when you bring it up that way. Yeah, I agree, Crunchy, with just how ridiculously it matches up. Oh, there's no little title text for this. That's interesting. No Aghil's Flame either. Okay, I thought Aghil dropped it in the retail build of the game, and apparently it's not here. Maybe it would be in the other Dragon Cathedral, but I'm skeptical. So we have Dragon Claw. Channels Drake to smash ground with dragon arms. To bite with dragon jaws. Okay, so very little expositional text in this build of the game so far. So coming into the Dragon Cathedral, it's a little bit hard to make out, but you could tell that it's very similar to the other churches found throughout the lands between, the ones where we see the America stuff. So that leads me to believe that it's very possible that the religion of America and the Two Fingers and or the Golden Order and whatnot appropriated churches that already existed. And I think that'll become a little bit more apparent as you look at the numbering and the naming of the churches. So architectural notes, we do have the little lion motifs on the Dragon Communion altars. So that could be a potential relation between Sarash being a lion and or the Beastmen, which all exist in Fair Missoula. We've got petrified dragons. Some people believe that you don't really see gold in them, which might be true, but at least in Fair Missoula, you can see some gold in the walls of the, in the remains of the dragons in the walls of Fair Missoula. It's a little bit of a mouthful, I suppose. And then we've got a bunch of decapitated statues of dragons, to oust a previous religion away. Very evident there. I think some of them are on the ground, but yeah. Jay said they can't see the Erd Tree because they lost Grace. I don't know about that, because there's the other, pretty much every other painting in the game depicts the Erd Tree where you can see it. But that could be a plausible explanation, but if that were the case, like Stormveil, I feel should still be there, but it's not. So it seems more deliberate to me. Katie says, you don't know how common of an opinion it is, but you think that the greater will is the sun and it simply overpowers all the other stars' fates, while the moon simply guides them. It's probably an unpopular opinion, but I could definitely see the appeal of it. Like, I don't think it's a bad idea, if that helps you out. Achilles Flame is always in Caelid? Okay. The number of churches in America reminds you of the Catholic missions here in California. And yeah, that's kind of like one real life example that I would compare it to. That, based on like the way the Spaniards like went through Mexico and California and like numbered their churches and stuff, I think can be comparable to the way America and Godfrey and everybody came down from the mountaintops of the giants into like the rest of the lands between. So let's go see our boy Bach. Hopefully his audio isn't all scuffed. I'll have to think of an answer to Trent's question while Bach talks.
Oh, what are you doing here? You must leave this place at once. They'll rush in and beat you to a pulp. You'll end up just like me. Oh. Wait. Is that what I think it is? You got it back for me. My sewing needle. What made you go and do a thing like that? My mum was a seamstress, and that sewing kit was all I had to remember her by. I always wanted to be just like sweet old mum. Then I suppose I can't just curl up and die, can I? Thank you. You're very kind. I always wanted to be a seamster like my mum. Then I suppose I can't just curl up and die, can I?
Alright, so there's an issue when Bach speaks specifically. I wonder if there's an issue with Yura. I'll go talk to him next. See if you guys still have the same issue. Because he should just say the same stuff. Because I was going to go into the Roundtable hold next. And if everybody's dialogue's messed up, I might reconsider that. But how bad is it, like on a scale of 1 to 10?
You must not forget, though, those who partake in dragon communion will one day shed their humanity, their hunger for dragon, their yearning only worsens until the floodgates burst, unleashing eternal torment. The strength of a might is no...
Alright, so how was Yura's dialogue? Was he okay? It's mild, almost unnoticeable. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Right, so Trent asked a bit ago if we could have one thing revealed in the Shadow of the Erdtree, what would it be? Which mystery would connect the most dots? Oh, so those are two different questions. The thing that I'd probably want to be revealed the most would be going to the history of the gloam-eyed queen and or the slumbering soulless demigods in the Wandering Mausoleums. Those are very curious to me. But what would connect the most dots would probably be something more related to glintstone, and more specifically the amber of the cosmos and the difference between like blue starlight and gold starlight. Beyond that, it might just be like more cosmic stuff between like Godwin and Ronnie with the sun and the moon. Those might connect the most dots. But very good questions. And then Crunchy also brought a really good comment that some of the other churches have names possibly derived from Hindu myth, like Irith and Ella. So that kind of indicates religious appropriation. I didn't know about the Hindu myth specifically. If you have some more info about that, I'd like to read it. You think Ella is Hebrew, but the same idea. Okay. No Kentucky Fried Audio. Good to go. Crunchy's a masochist and wants to upend everyone's theories, including their own. I can respect that. That's why I just never place faith in any one theory. Like honestly, as soon as what's her face in the DLC of Dark Souls 3 was introduced as a daughter of Gwyn, I was like, okay, I could never believe in anything anymore. Filianor. I'm like Fia. Nope, definitely not Fia. Yeah, no. Once they added Filianor to the game, it just killed my hope for ever understanding anything. Alright, so coming to Castle Mourn, we've already talked to Irina. We do have her letter. We see a big-ass mound of corpses with a bunch of like demi-humans celebrating over the top of them. And I forgot to go check out the demi-humans next to... Yeah, I'm going to go do that, actually. I'll go to like Egil and look at like some of the demi-humans fighting humans, as well as like some of them turning into trees. And maybe I should also definitely talk to Bach next to that one bonfire again. Not bonfire side of grace. So even though it isn't night yet, these patrolmen will attack the demi-humans and the demi-humans will attack the patrolmen. Oh, that felt pretty cool. I just had to experiment. Normally I'd like let them fight it out a bit more and see who wins. It's typically the soldiers, despite being fewer in number, although like it varies. So we just got Morgot Soldier Greaves again. So the cooler thing is like once you come down here, we're gonna find some more demi-humans. And some of them, like, pop out of the bushes, like Bach was in one. And one of the interesting things to me about Bach is, like, he's one of the very few demi-humans that can talk reliably. He seems more intelligent than the other ones. And I don't know if that's because Bach is special, or if it's just because of, like, the state of the lands between and, like, everything essentially becoming de facto zombies. Or, like, going hollow, I guess. Yeah, and Spaghetti says looks like we'll get some more of Mikkel and Torrent lore, at least with the new one. And yeah, that's another big empty point in the lore, just things related to Mikkel and Saint Trina specifically. I would also like them to like bring back an Asimi style quest line. I guess I can't say bring back or bring in an Asimi style quest line. Okay. So maybe the bushes were somewhere else, but I thought they were down here, or maybe they'd like already transformed. I don't know. You can jump across... Nope, not here. Definitely not here. Some portion to get to the Weeping Peninsula early. Because that's how I first went to the Weeping Peninsula in my first playthrough. Let me check back with you guys. Glowmide Queen needs to be solved. It's a downward spiral into another Velka situation. Yeah. Crunchy thinks Irith is like a wind deity or something. You'll have to check again. Okay, thank you. Destined Death and those who live in Deathmore. Become pregnant with a silver paint splatter. Okay, no, maybe this is the spot that has transforming things. Ooh. I was expecting that to swing behind me a little bit more, but I failed. Some stuff about the god of the Deathbirds, that'd also be a good thing to know more about. Teens glances away from chat for like 1 minute. That's how I feel being the streamer sometimes. And just because like I'm a type of person that doesn't like to leave any stones unturned, I know it drives some people wild that I like actually read the chat and stuff. Hefty beast bone. Okay, that looks like a suspicious looking bush. Hey, there we go. Yeah, I don't think those demi-humans were like punished kind of like Bach was. So, who knows? Another suspicious bush. So one of the cooler things to me about like these bushes in particular is it kind of reminds me of like America's Mischief, and it makes me wonder if there's meant to be more of a connection between her and the demi-humans. If anybody has ever seen the nightmare fuel-inducing picture of Malekith without his armor, he's very similar looking to a demi-human queen. And so there's a lot of questions I have about Marika and her involvement with beasts because of all the stuff relating to like Placidusax and Malekith, and Malekith being the beast clergyman of Farum Azula. There's a lot more at play with Marika's connections to Farum Azula than the game lets on. It's just really all subtextual stuff, I think. Yeah, and Walter says, the only theories that you've seen that explain the Glomide Queen go deep into Jungian analysis. Yeah, and it's kind of funny like how many different branches like of analyses that people will go into. Like, there's a bunch of people who really like the alchemy stuff. There's another large number of people who like the Jungian stuff. So it's just kind of all over the place. Like, you could compare them to like early Christianity, Judaism, Abrahamic religious origins, Mithraism, like Arthurian legend, like Tarnished Archaeologist has brought up before, as well as like Egyptian mythology. So, oh yeah, and of course Greek mythology. Goddess Beget asks, does the game ever hint at what demi-humans are? No. Demi-human could mean more like literally like subhuman, depending on how you take like Ajin. But I think it's a common idea for people to believe that demi-humans would have like came first and that humans evolved from demi-humans later. But I don't know exactly how accurate that would be. Damn it. He's a tanky boy. So I probably need to go for backstabs, but I just got staggered. Okay, so the weapon art for that is kind of slow, and I probably should have just done like R1s. It's all good. Still getting used to the moveset here. I guess it's unfortunate that I like finished off the demigods, or sorry, demigods, the demi-humans right before it turned to night to show off their eyes, but I'm sure we'll have like plenty of other chances. And if I get the spirit ashes, we can show those off as well. Kenneth Hyde also wants to make peace with the demi-humans, which might suggest they're okay in the Golden Order or something. Yeah. Well, I think, like, it's more like a caste type system, or I don't know if they're okay with it as much as, like, they're okay with exploiting them. Because they seem to be used as like menial servants, like Bach and his mother are seamsters. Oh yeah, and we can hear the Misbegotten fighting our boys up top. I think I called these dudes demi-humans when I first walked in. But yeah, no, these are Misbegotten. Oh, it lived. I didn't aggro as many of them as I was expecting. FromSoft likes to take inspiration from everywhere, and everyone seemingly without rhyme or reason. I think the reason is always a rule of cool. Run away! Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Almost pulled out the telescope. I do like the different sizes of the Misbegotten that we fight here, and like the corresponding to the general tankiness. It's kind of a good way to like make copy and pasted enemies feel a bit different, even if they are kind of the same. And even though the game doesn't say it directly, I think there's like one spot in Japanese that says it. Hugh is also a Misbegotten, which also like kind of ties in like the questions that I have about like Marika's origins with like her relationship with Hugh more specifically. And the reason why I brought that up is because it's a bit easy to make that comparison to Hugh when you look at like the bigger Misbegotten over here. This guy more specifically. Alright, well, it looks like we're going to have a ragdoll failure here. Rip. Alright, not trying to do a tap dance on this guy's corpse. So it looks like maybe we'll just use the other guy that's chilling and maybe stealth it up. Oh, something's almost dying. So if demi-humans are seamsters with illusion abilities, was Radigan a dog guy? Well, he is the Leal Hound of the Golden Order. I don't know why I thought this dude was Misbegotten. I went spam for the win. Man. He let out a lot of fireflies after he died. Alright, yeah, let's actually go in the building. So, at the beginning of the last stream, I had mentioned how, like, Castle Mourn is of a more ancient design than, like, Stormveil, or that it's possible Stormveil was, like, renovated after it was subjugated. When we go into Castle Mourn more, like, in-depth, we still get, like, the Banished Knight weapons and all that stuff everywhere. And the banners are a bit different. Where is it? I thought there was actually treasure in here. Maybe it's not in this version of the game. So yeah, so these are like Banished Knight halberds. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm just a little bit blind. I thought there was treasure. That's a 1.00 for you. Trying to backstab. Rip. Poor little soldier guy. So yeah, these dudes are still like wearing like Godric's Knights set. So while Castle Morne may have been of an older institution or whatnot, it's definitely been taken over by Godfrey and the Golden lineage after that fact. And before Malekith is Radigan jokes. Foot soldier helmet. Alrighty. Go higher. I'm trying to remember if there's actually even anything up here. So that just gets me back that way where I need to go next. Okay. I typically don't come this way because there's like no real reason to, because Edgar's like the other way and whatnot, but okay. Helm used by Stormveil soldiers. Very, verbose. Katie says, doesn't the grafted greatsword say that Castle Morne was built by the guy who wanted to defeat Godfrey? Yeah. Kind of. It sounds something along those lines. That might not be, like, quite exactly what it says, so I might be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. So, yeah. Compared to some of the other, like, forge places that are, like, controlled by the demi-gods, there aren't, like, the sigils on top of the things so much. Like, the supplies. So, it's kind of one difference of, like, Castle Morne from other places. Play Capenda, welcome in. You ask, do you have any idea who the Mourn people were? Did they exist alongside the Stormhawks back in the day? The answer is no, we don't know exactly who they were, but there is a really good chance that they did exist alongside the Stormhawks because of like all of the fallen debris dotting the Weeping Peninsula and Limgrave of Crumbling Fair Missoula. I do think it's a strong possibility that they could have had Stormhawks here, because there's a bunch of the like hawk insignias on like the ornamentation on the walls and things, but I guess those also could have come from the time after Godfrey, which is why we don't really know. Oh, I'm surprised it didn't do the like execute animation there. Let me equip either the kukri or throwing knives. Probably kukri. Should be good enough. Where do we find out about human form dragons? Yeah, as Teen Sith said, it's from the things related to Landsacks. But to be fair, it is written as hearsay, so we don't actually know if a dragon turned into a human or if a human could have become a dragon. But there also isn't really a ton of reason to doubt it other than the fact that it isn't written as like explicitly as it possibly could be. So take it with a grain of salt, but it could just be a nothing burger. Fairly large iron cleaver commonly used by the maltreated misbegotten. Charged with resentment, these weapons are swung wildly and relentlessly, often after charging up to foes. So this will be the kind of weapon that's used next to Irina's corpse later on. Yeah, it is a fuzzy time period to pin events down. There's only 2 or 3 true dragons in the whole Soul series, though. Could the devolution of dragons be a reference to the Fire Emblem Dragon degeneration? I doubt it, but people can have their fun however they see fit. Crunchy says, it also says she took human form, which could also mean it's an illusion like America's Mischief. That's also an interesting potential. And probably a really big version of America's Mischief if it actually works on a dragon. But to be fair, like, there are a couple of the enemies that transform from, like, larval tiers, and they kind of take on human forms, so maybe there's a situation like that. I mean, I doubt it, to be honest, but I guess it's within the realm of possibility. Alright, now we get to talk to Edgar, our revenger that was kind of cut in the game, but still kind of exists through him. And Raya, yeah.
Face I've not seen before. I'm Edgar, warden of this castle, as ordained by Lord Godric himself. But you can see how things have turned out. The menials have all rebelled. They gave me good service, or so I thought. But it seems it was all an act. Foul creatures, as it said, and true enough, they're foul inside and out. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but whatever you come here to do, I'm afraid Castle Mourn won't hold much longer. Take this, by way of apology.
Sacrificial twig. So now we can deliver Irina's letter or not. Nothing really happens if you don't deliver it, so...
Now then, away with you. You've no reason to risk your neck dawdling here, eh?
Alright, but before that, let's go ahead and take a look at Edgar. I forget that you can't, like, actually walk around with this. So he has on the Banished Knight set, which shows that, like, the Banished Knights still kind of exist and can still, like, serve different lords. The Banished Knight Spirit Ashes for Oleg and Ingval specified that they are the Banished Knights were the wings of the Stormlord. So with Godfrey having fought the Stormlord, I think that is positive evidence that the Banished Knights did not always follow Godfrey, and that they probably joined him after the fact of the Stormlord being defeated. I was trying to, like, show off their emblem, but kind of failed.
Now then, away with you. You've no reason to risk your neck dawdling here, eh? I see. From Irina. Thank you. I'm in your debt, but I can't leave yet. Even if the castle should fall, as commander, I must remain to ensure the treasured sword of Morne does not fall into the wrong hands. If you see Irina, do tell her that her father will come for her once he's fulfilled his duty.
Duty. Alright, he might say something else. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much that for this section of Castle Mourn. It's kind of funny that we couldn't get the treasure in the one area. So now we'll just hop over onto the Side of Grace. I am annoyed that I can't hop back up from there, as far as I know. Hopefully I'm wrong about that, and you guys can be like, hey, idiot, look over here. But it's a little bit of a nuisance to get back to Edgar from the first site. And also, like, the layout of Castle Mourn is weird as crap. Like, why doesn't it connect anywhere to, like, the lower portion? Maybe there's, like, structural damage and we can't do it. That kind of thing has always kind of irked me in video game design. So let's go back to Irina. What was that sound? Hopefully my mic muted when I cleared my throat, but whoops, I don't know. Doesn't he have a golden glow in his eyes? Edgar? No, not that I know of. Plate Compenda says, so they're kind of like Crucible Knights in the way they've lost their core purpose. I think the Crucible Knights could have, like, served Godfrey maybe from the beginning. I don't think they predate Godfrey. Because, like, all the Crucible incantations have Erd trees on them. But aside from that, I would agree with that statement. Are the mismatched gloves and shoulders supposed to be remade pieces or standard to the set? I think it's standard to the set. Crunchy says he's got a West Country accent. You wonder if that's meant to imply he's kind of a lower class country bumpkin or something. That's a good question, and also some good knowledge that I'm like not super familiar with, like what connotation certain accents have. Are Edgar and Irina tarnished or not? You'll probably have to see Zoli's video again and see if they have the golden eyes. Oh, one way that I test if something's tarnished is I'll Deathblight it. And yeah, they're definitely tarnished. You can Deathblight them. Maybe not Irina. I don't think I ever tried to Deathblight her specifically, but you can definitely Deathblight and cause madness onto Edgar, despite him like going mad. Jay says, the game lore talks about the Stormveil Castle as a big barrier in the way of Godfrey. It's a sham. It's an early game dungeon area because lore-wise they have a lot of control. Alright, so now that we've delivered Irina's letter and talked to Edgar, we come over here and we see the iron cleaver that we managed to just pick up next to a body. When you examine her, it says she's dead. So that's all you can do there. I'm afraid if I teleported to Liurnia now, talking to Hayato would make like Edgar disappear. So we're just going to go back to the place. That's not the place. We're going to go see Edgar. I'm pretty sure I can't get there from here, but I'm just going to like double check. Yeah, it's too much of a drop. Okay. Unfortunate. Yeah, is Irina right? Kind of like Yura and Shabriri. I think most likely the answer is yes, but, you know, technically it's ambiguous. And one thing that differs between Irina and Yura more specifically is like Yura's corpse doesn't stay in the Second Church of America, whereas Irina's corpse stays exactly where it is while Hayato like walks around and does whatever she does. So on one hand, I am inclined to believe that Irina is Hayato, but it's just different. It could be like maybe like a D situation, but I doubt it. I don't know why I never thought about that before, to be honest. But yeah, maybe it's like that. Wow. Okay, let me whiff some more attacks, why don't I? So these things will kind of chase me up to the Edgar area, so I will need to kill some things before I get too close to him. Which is a little bit terrifying to do next to the cliff. And this should be good enough, I think. I hope. Crunchy says, Shiburi is also aware of how he's possessing Yura, whereas Hayato doesn't give any indication she knows of Irina or Edgar. Yeah. So, okay, Edgar's already gone, which is cool. So that means he's going to be by Irina version 1. Or at least he's supposed to be. Don't always know if like these quest triggers work properly this early on. Oh, maybe I screwed up. Maybe I should have gone through the rest of Castle Mourn. Right, so we'll do that, and then I'm assuming Edgar might teleport back to where he was, or where he should be. It can't be coincidence she appears after Edgar falls to the frenzy, herself being host to frenzy. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Capenda, thank you. Oops. I jumped too far, didn't mean to do that. Or rather, I did not jump far enough, I rolled too far. think there's just like some random item that's not too important at the top. Maybe not. Okay, maybe just this ghost. Pickled turtleneck. Let me kill the oozes. Okay, I guess I'm already out of combat. That's good. Nope, different kind of ooze. Somebody told me these things are weak to fire. Doesn't seem terribly weak. Granted, it could just be because I'm using the torch, but... Well, I guess it's a difference between 17 and 22, so... Alright. Oh yeah, I should also level up my weapon. I should have gone to Hugh a long time ago. Alright, so I really like this corpse. It's got some interesting info. Please help me, I'm of noble blood. If those hideous mongrels eat me, I'll be forever marred. Anything but that, please, think of the disgrace. So I don't know if this dude is actually eaten or not, but one headcanon theory that I have is if something consumes something else completely, like the way that snakes eat things, it would essentially separate them from being able to have their souls return to the Erd Tree or whatnot. And that may have been why snakes were considered like rebels or traitors to the Erd Tree, and why Rykard uses the power of the Great Snake to rebel against the Erd Tree more specifically. I think it's essentially like the exact same mechanism as the Erd Tree, with just like a different veneer over everything. Because the Erd Tree essentially consumes the essences of things completely through its roots, whereas the snake just does it bones and all. Oh, that was a tanky boy. Okay. Oh, you can backstab these ones? Okay. I don't know why I didn't work on the other one earlier. So maybe we'll get a good look at this one's face? No, of course not. But there'll be a couple others. It's probably good enough. Yeah, so I think like these things are pretty close to the way that Hugh looks. Stuffy says, you wonder if it's potentially rebirths through different outer gods and Hayata just gets influenced by frenzy. So I wonder, honestly, if it has to deal with cannibalism, because when we do meet Edgar at the Revenger's Shack, there's a bunch of the raw meat dumplings that are not there if you go there before he's supposed to go there. And when you go up to Mount Gelmir, a lot of the Leyndell knights that have gone under the influence of the Chaos Flame are also seen eating corpses of their fellow men. I meant to do that before that. Oh, I didn't want it to run away. So I legitimately wonder if cannibalism is a big part of like the Flame of Frenzy worship, because it would also make sense to me that the nomadic merchants under Leyndell would have been buried underground with no food to eat, so they may have been forced to cannibalize each other, potentially creating like either the Three Fingers in the process through their desperation, or the flame itself. I don't really know, but that's I think it's plausible, even if it's like disappointing, I guess would be the word for that. Who's got hands? Cantrell says, Hayata doesn't seem to have memory prior, so what if she has become host of the frenzy using Irina's body? I think that's possible. Though where is there said something can take host of a body like that? There's a couple cases, like if you consider like the way that Ronnie or Selen can take over the body of a doll or a puppet, like another person's body with like Nefeli and Celivis's potions and stuff. It's not unheard of for there to be possessions in the game, as well as like with Yura during his thing. Oh yeah, and Crunchy brings up the other point that the frenzy people eat eyeballs. And yeah, that does make Hayata more in tune with the frenzy flame. Yeah, that's a good way. I don't know why I didn't consider eyeballs cannibalism. That's a terrible statement out of context. But yeah. Yeah, Wendigo psychosis. That's another good reference. Stella B, welcome back in. Prions? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Prion disease? Oh, okay, that's an actual thing. I don't think I've ever heard of it. Mad cow disease, okay. Edgar has golden eyes according to Zoli's video. His iris RGB is... okay. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about like looking at the actual hue of characters' eyes to consider whether or not they were tarnished. I just typically would like get into combat with them and then just use Fia's Death Mist. Oh, Prion from eating brains. Like the only thing that I know about like cannibalism is like apparently there's like a certain kind of rash that cannibals can get. I don't know if that's prion disease. I kind of doubt it because it sounds like it's worse just based on your guys' reaction so far. Oh, he lived. Yeah, I only heard about the rash thing because of like I mean, this might be bullcrap now that I think about it. Just like, I heard this story of a woman who was going out with a guy who had killed a bunch of other women he was dating and like had their remains in his freezer and served her some of the food. So she developed a rash and went to the doctor and they were like, what the hell is this? And then they're like, oh, it's this. And so like, she learned that her boyfriend was a cannibal. Well, also that she was a cannibal because of her boyfriend, and he got caught because of it. Thankfully, I don't know. It's a really messed up story. It might be wrong, but it's something I've heard. Now that I think about it, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something on like a random ass like cop/detective TV show, and it could be nonsense. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Now I'm curious and kind of like want to check into that as well as like the Prion thing. Pre-owned Honda Civic. I don't know. I said that. I guess ADHD. Who knows? Brain grant us eyes. The Mikkel and Moog statement in the previous stream is even worse out of context. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have said nothing of the kind. Just walking back into prank cannibalism. Nobody said anything about pranks. Yeah, the boyfriend was frenzied for sure. Kenchel would believe it. There was this old woman in Eastern Europe that was a cannibal that got caught after decades. Oh, like a gotcha moment, huh? Now you're a cannibal too. No, I don't think he was pranking her. It's probably like the dude's freaking sick, demented. So it's not like it was just a prank, bro. Right, so I guess I should point these out. But like crabs will also drop the strips of white meat. They're crustaceans. They don't have hemoglobin in real life. When you attack them, they have like this brownish, grayish liquid come out of them, which is their blood. Dark Souls 3, please. These things were a menace in the swamp area over there, and even in the DLC. That wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was going to be. Crab eggs. I don't think I ever looked at the crab eggs that we picked up before. Fire arrow. And so because these crabs have like white flesh, it makes me wonder if their eggs are kind of similar to the land octopi ovary and that they only reproduce from like killing humans. But these eggs of great crabs, which dwell in the shadows, are a nutritious foodstuff that warms from within. The flavor is exquisite. They also kind of look like eyes, but not really. I'm not exactly familiar with how crab eggs look in real life. So I don't know if it's more of an embellishment on the art or if it's just like me Rorschaching things. Why did I attack one? Now they're all going to be pissed off. I did it because it was there. The true tarnished conundrum. So there's also spirit jellyfish here, which I don't exactly know what the deal is with the spirit jellyfish in general. One thing which is kind of interesting, and I don't really think it goes anywhere, so I'm just going to curse you guys with this knowledge as well, is that like jellyfish in Japanese is kurage, which comes from the characters for sea and moon. So are jellyfish sea moons? Is there something more going along with that? I don't know. But now you also have that thought to contend with. You're welcome. Hannibal, yeah. These ones are way easier to deal with than the DS3 ones. Yeah, but DS3 doesn't have the lobsters, the prawns. Yeah, great swamp ring. Don't need that in Elden Ring. So as we come in, we have the Leonin Misbegotten. This might have a different name. I know the one where you pick up the Golden Order Greatsword is called something different. The Aberrant Crusader? So let's see if this is the same or different. He'll just aggro no matter what, I think. Alright, Leonine Aberration. Oh, I like Aberration a bit better than Misbegotten because it kind of gets a little bit more at the idea of them being a mixed race. A little bit more. Maybe not. I don't know. Oh yeah, let's actually focus on the fight, huh? So these dudes can roar and that will turn their eyes red, kind of like a frenzied demi-human. That will allow them to charge or use a couple other attacks. I was not expecting the follow-up. Alright, that was obviously my fault. I am not as much of a fan of the jumping R2 on the Twin Blades, though. The range is a little bit shorter than I'd like. I'm not blaming my loss on that, just kind of something I'm becoming more and more aware of. Crunchy says the design is based off the moon jellyfish specifically, which is called Aurelia Aurita. Oh yeah, and that's also another good point. Because when we do meet her sister, one of them are called Aurelia. So that's a fair point. But sorry, I guess I kind of like didn't finish my original thought with the jellyfish. So one of the reasons why they confuse me is just because they kind of seem to be in a little bit random areas. And I don't know like what kind of significance they have to where we can find them. Because some are by some graveyards and then others are in like random positions. Like you could make the argument that like these spirit jellyfish could be the spirits of the people of Castle Mourn, which is perfectly fine. But if these are people, why did they become jellyfish in their spirit form is kind of a weird question that I have. And I guess that also applies to Aurelia and her sister that want to see the stars. But maybe after they see the stars, they go to travel with them? Hey, look, a summon sign. Oh, Edgar. Okay. Hey, this is our first summon sign of the game. Castellan Edgar. So, Castellan is like the person that's charged with like the upkeep. Why do I like forget so many words? Who's in charge of the fortress, essentially, of a castle. Okay. Katie was wondering if jellyfish have some connections to the spirits. Maybe. That if so, I don't know what they are. Stuffy says, what you're saying is Sea Moon are the characters for jellyfish in Japanese? Yes. I don't know if jellyfish are related to the spirits of the dead. I know there's like this weird ass crab that if Japanese fishermen like would trawl up and they had like a shape on their shell which kind of resembled that of like a goofy looking like Noah mask, that they would throw them back into the water, which kind of like was like eugenics for crabs. So now that like all those crabs kind of look like people, I guess. But I don't know about jellyfish specifically in terms of like mythologies in Japan at least. Maybe there's something a bit more global that I'm unaware of, but you assumed the sea moons were another intelligent race? Oh, you don't think Edgar's there in the final version? Okay. I don't remember because I typically don't summon. He's a furled finger. What's he using? Is the halberd? Yeah, he's using the halberd. He uses that when we fight him. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that. Oh! So that was an Erdtree spell. Blessing of the Erdtree, maybe? I'm not super familiar with how the incantations look. I'm surprised it didn't have like a dragon communion thing instead. Because the other Banished Knights don't use those, but I guess to be fair, those Banished Knights might not be part of the same faction. Although that's not going to make sense when they actually get to other locations in the game, I'll say. And be vague on purpose. Wrath of the Gods, or gold, I guess, in this game. Man, this thing does not want to get staggered. Oops. I should have known better than that. There we go. So yeah, the game becomes a lot more trivialized when you summon. Big surprise, I know. Wow, very skill. Much grafted blade. Thank you, Edgar. So we get the grafted blade greatsword. And a lost grace discovered. So the cool thing about Castle Mourn here specifically is we have this one random big ass grave in the background that has the hole in it. This is technically cut content from Dark Souls 3. It was supposed to be like part of the God's grave that never made it in there. One of the weirder things about this grave to me is it almost looks like it has like fingerprints on it, like unironically. So I don't know if it's supposed to be related to the fingers. I don't know why there's a hole in it. I think it could potentially be related to either like giants unironically in this game or the trolls that get reanimated. But I'm skeptical of that as well because there's not a lot tying them in directly together. But the other important thing to note about this kind of grave more specifically to me is that we have a ton of them littering the outskirts of Leyndell. So as I'd mentioned earlier in the previous stream, we do have the kind of old highway stretching from Leyndell down to Castle Mourn, and there did seem to be like stronger links between the two kingdoms, whatever you want to call them, in more ancient times than I think the game lets on. So all these other graves are pretty straightforward. We've got like a ton of the commoners just everywhere, but Banished Knight weapons, but that's pretty much it for Castle Mourn. So we could probably go back to see if Edgar is where he was originally. He should be there, I hope. If not, he may have just teleported towards Irina. So I'll teleport to the next side of Grace and catch up with you guys now. You have to do the side quest the intended way to see a summon sign. So, was this summon sign not there when I first walked up? I might have just like missed it and not paid attention. Okay, he is there in the patched version. Thank you, Crunchy. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Corporate Nothing, welcome back to the stream. An intended way, interesting. There's not a lot of those in this game. There are some intended things, but they were very kind, I think, especially compared to some of their previous games in allowing people to do quests out of order or to like sequence break them a bit. Still heavy. Alright, I'm gonna use some runes to just level up again. I think I might need more than that. It does annoy me that I can't see if like leveling up endurance would make me not heavy on the level up screen. It's like one thing that I do wish that they changed about the game. Alright, now we're medium. Sweet. And it's funny that I did this because we could probably just go and get the lantern now anyway. Alright, so let's go see Edgar and then go to the Roundtable hold and then pick up the lantern. Teen Sith says, the hole in that style gravestone in real life you think is to keep it from being knocked over by the wind. Oh, I think I've heard something about that before. Like that rings a bell. But I don't know if that's true. But yeah, I'll try to check that out. Thanks for bringing that up. It's been a while since you checked that one. Okay. Corporate says, there's an old cave in Scotland or something that has the fingerprint patterns lining the walls. Or France? I don't think I've heard about that then. Like, I know of like the older, like, Norman cave, I think it's called, where it just has like the super ancient cave paintings, but I don't think I've heard anything about like fingerprints specifically. Or do you just mean like the handprints, not like actual like the fingerprints? Because I think that grave that we showed off has like actual like grooves that resemble the ridges and valleys of a fingerprint. I can't remember what it's actually called. The funny thing is, some of these misbegotten can climb ladders. Alright, Katie, thank you for joining in, and you have a good night. Oh, these guys are up kind of high. I'm scared. I'm not gonna go around a corner. I lied, apparently. One of the things that I do really appreciate about Elden Ring is just how much work they really had to do to like make everything visible and like kind of at scale, like pretty much no matter where you look. Like, the only thing that doesn't actually, like, kind of conform to that would be Farum Azula. Like, the only place you can see it, like, you should, like, ideally be able to see it here. The only way you can see Farum Azula is if you're in the isolated Divine Tower. Or is that the Caelid one? The isolated Divine Tower. Alright. So, Edgar is back. Good news.
I'm in your debt for keeping the sword from those fallen creatures.
I forgot to read it.
I'm no longer bound by duty. Once I've rescued Irina, I will spend my remaining days with her. Thanks to you, I will be reunited with Irina and devote my remaining days to her. Irina has a gentle nature, though. I only hope it remains intact.
Alright, so we got the grafted George R.R. Martin sword. So when anybody ever asks me, like, do I think George really influenced the game? I can't help but see the influence in this sword. The storied sword of Castle Mourn, a revenger's weapon, it is burdened with oceans of anger and regret. A lone surviving champion from a country now long gone once took every single sword from a clan of warriors in their quest to continue their fight. Excuse me. In their quest to continue their fight. So, skill is dignity of a lord. I think that's different. But, I mean, the fact is the same. So that's pretty much it with Edgar for now. We can go, we can go see him by Irina's corpse, but I think... Damn it, I'm still in combat. One thing that I want to show off is potentially the monument right outside Castle Mourn. That's a rule of cool weapon if you've ever seen one. Yeah. It's called Oath of Vengeance in the patched version. Thank you, Crunchy. I don't know why like the jellyfish are always pissed off up until we get close to them. It's kind of always funny to me. Or maybe these ones are just pissed off. Oh, they angry. They angry. Oh yeah, one of the weird things to me is like or not corpses, but spirits can sort of bleed in this game. Like they have this white mist come out of them as though it's blood. Now, I'm sure somebody is probably going to bring this up at some point, but I have no idea why there's so many corpses and chairs and like what the actual significance of bodies and chairs are in Elden Ring. Like, honestly, it just kind of reminds me of like the School of Mensis and Bloodborne, but I do wish I knew like what the significance of that was, especially with like the Rune of Death being removed. So death shouldn't be as big a thing as it is, I guess. But okay, I was afraid that would happen just because like all of the other sword monuments didn't have any text associated with them. So it seems like those notes got added in really late to the game because there were really only a couple months between when the game went gold and the day it actually released. So let's go see Irina and then head to the Roundtable hold. Yeah, the chairs also reminded you of Bloodborne Team Sith. At least I'm not alone in that regard, then. Our boy Edgar lamenting his daughter.
Irina, how could this be? My daughter deserved better. The fault lies with me. I chose duty over my daughter's safety. And that is how fate has answered.
Let it be known when you choose duty, your world goes to shit.
I'll find them. The foul wretches responsible for this. I'll hunt them down and exterminate every last one of them. Rest assured, Irina, it will be done.
If I remember correctly, if you kill Irina, he gets pissed off at you and attacks you like immediately here, which is kind of interesting.
I'll find them. The foul wretches responsible for this. I'll hunt them, rest assured.
And so we do get like the misbegotten like cleaver next to her, which is like the hint of what might have killed her. But if she's even really dead is actually questionable. So, all right, that's pretty much that. Oh, yeah, okay. So we'll do Roundtable Hold next. Then we're going to come back to the Weeping Peninsula and check out a lot of the actual like things here before heading into Liurnia. Or maybe I should go to Liurnia first and then trickle back on down here. Yeah, okay. There are people on boats on the map, you think? For what? Spaghetti. Oh, sorry, you said something earlier. You feel like there were people who attempted to leave the lands between. Okay. Oh, you feel like the cherry people were trying to leave the lands between? That's interesting. Okay. Sit in a chair in low tide to die in high tide? Corporate was thinking of an historical landmark in France called the Cairns Gavrinis, and it does indeed have a bunch of monoliths with fingerprint patterns on them. Okay, I'll look that up. Thank you for bringing that up. Let me actually take a note of that so I can legitimately remember to look that up. That gets to go in the Elden notes. Text file. Alrighty. Where are we going next? Alright. Roundtable hold.
Very well. Let my hand rest upon you for but a moment.
No, that was faster than I was expecting. So yeah, when we get teleported into the Roundtable hold in this version of the game, we have the Lane-Dell music going on in the background. So as we get teleported in, I've mentioned before that these kinds of statues that we found in Stormveil will make an appearance, and rather than being more like wooden or stone, the kinds of flowers that they have are more gold. So do with that knowledge what you will. We'll be seeing more of these throughout the game. And the base of these statues just have a random shield, so nothing crazy important. We have Gideon, Corin, and the whole cast and crew. And D. Oh, and we still haven't seen Malekith, so I think I'll avoid talking to D until after I talk to Malekith, because he has a little bit different dialogue than I think most people would get the chance to see.
Oh, I see you've just arrived. Welcome to the Roundtable hold. I'm Corin, a man of the cloth. I teach incantations, the strength granted us by the two fingers, and explore the secrets of the Golden Order, so that one day, if a tarnished of the Roundtable hold should become Elden Lord, I might counsel them, ensuring order regains its proper form, righting rule over men. By the way, do you still see it? The guidance of grace. You do? Wonderful news. Most tarnished are blind to it these days. You are something of a rare breed. Well, what do you say? Care to learn an incantation of the two fingers?
Welcome back in, Katie. Alright, so Corin says some pretty interesting stuff about us still seeing the grace. And so that establishes that many of the tarnished do not. And I don't necessarily think that means that tarnished who lose the sight of grace can't see the Erd Tree, because we still do see Corin and Goldmask at the very least looking at it. Maybe they haven't lost their sight of grace either. Sight S-I-G-H-T, mind you. But who really knows? So he'll teach us our incantations. We can give him the prayer book. We only have the Godskin one right now, and I think when we do give him the Assassin Two Fingers prayer books, he also says they're heretical. So we could give our prayer books to Corin or Muriel. May as well give them to him for now, because I feel like it.
That is a work of heresy. Its incantations bear no lineage from the Erd Tree. Very well. I'll take it off your hands.
Crunchy brings up a great point. He's blindfolded, so who knows what he sees. I guess he definitely can't see the Erd Tree. Checkmate. Rip me. Alright, so let's look at our incantations. Heal is an incantation taught by maidens of the Finger Reader. So, alright, let me read everything. Heals HP for the caster and nearby allies. The maiden served the two fingers by guiding the tarnished to grace in accordance with its mighty will. So, there's a little bit of a difference with that like last line there, but it's interesting to me that it says that the incantation is taught by maidens of the finger reader, and then in the second paragraph specifies the two fingers. So that's just like a little bit of a weird translation inconsistency that stands out to me. Like, I feel like the first line should have been understood to be plural. They did go back and fix it, but it's just kind of weird. So maybe they had one line to begin with and then they were given extra text later on, because that would make a lot of sense with what we'll see with like some of these other things, like temporarily slightly increased magic resistance. But alrighty, that's pretty much the same there. Just mechanical text, no flavor text. Rejection. Produces a shockwave that pushes away foes near the caster. This incantation increases in power when charged up. Hark Tarnished. If you truly walk in faith, you must be prepared to reject all else. So, O Flame is an incantation from the Fire Monks, guardians of the Giant's Flame of Ruin. Momentarily sparks a roaring flame from the caster's hands. This incantation can be cast rapidly after dashes, dodge rolls, and other maneuvers. So not a lot of like flavor text on this, but it is also strange that of all the incantations Korn knows, he knows like the sealed ones of the Fire Giants and the Flame of Ruin. But to be fair, that is also kind of part and parcel with the way that prophets would see the Flame of Ruin within the Erd Tree. And Korn is kind of wearing a modified prophet set. But just setting that aside, his issues with like many other incantations being heretical to the Golden Order does make it a little bit strange that he has these ones of all the others. Fire beguiles those who look upon it. Those who would guard the flame would also come to worship it. So that's pretty similar language as to like what you'd find in like Dark Souls 1. So many of the old style themes of FromSoft games make a kind of reappearance in Elden Ring. Black Flame of the God Slayer. Throws Black Fireball. Black Flame Blade. Engulf weapon and Black Flame raising fire and normal attack power. So, do I want to talk about that now? Yeah, I'll probably forget later on. So compared to like the fire incantations, which I think only scale on faith, yeah, and like the Erd Tree ones and the two finger ones, they all just scale on faith. The Golden Order incantation scale on intelligence and faith, with a few exceptions, and the Black Flame ones, at least the seal itself, scales on faith and strength, which is interesting to me. And it seems like the God Slayers are closer to the Beastmen because of the Beast Talisman also, or not Talisman, but the Beast Claw seal also scaling on or requiring faith and strength to use. Right, so that's pretty much all I want to talk about with that for now. I know you guys be chatting away, so let's check that out. Okay. Bobos, welcome back into the stream. Nice to see you again. Goddess Baguette says, Rogier says at some point they stopped being able to see Grace. Does he? Bogart does? Oh, yeah. I see. I was thinking of the Erd Tree. No, you're right, yeah. He also says the normal two-finger prayer book is heresy. Thank you, Katie. Yep. He can smell it. He can smell the tree. The man is blindfolded but literally records Goldmask's finger movements. Does he echolocate? I feel like he would probably feel the vibrations, but that is something that's also bothered me. Like the dude with the blindfold on, just watching some dude like trace words in the air. Yeah, and Teens literally says he senses the vibrations of the ground like Toph. It's almost like he's a heretic, but is also a fundamentalist for his own dogma. Yeah, that's kind of how I view him as well. Black Flame is your favorite Lil B mixtape. Katie says the incantation actually has different descriptions than the retail. The gods can seal scales on faith and dex. Is it dexterity? I thought it was strength. Okay. Crunchy says black flames are weighty and cause physical damage. Oh crap, well, wrong game lore. Nope. Yeah. He uses calculus to read the fingers. Alright, let's check out our boy Dialos. I don't know how to like properly do his quest. Like I've never got him to like really give me the story of why he goes to Volcano Manor. Or like there's like another section to his text that I don't know if is actually in the game, or at least I've never gotten it. Like I've talked to him near Lanya in Liurnia, and then like when he's in Volcano Manor, but there's just something else in there. Oh yeah, this version of the game, I don't think this is in retail anymore, but this big side of Grace has a lot of like the little tendrils pointing to the other sides of Grace, which is really interesting to me. Like it just goes everywhere without like rhyme or reason, which is another good reason to believe why this Roundtable hold has more of a metaphysical connection to the Erd Tree. Actually, looking at it like this, the little parts like here kind of resemble a tree stump. And obviously, like the shape of the Grace itself is kind of similar to like the human silhouette, similar to the humanity sprites of like Dark Souls, or like the Grace mimics and all that. You've never been able to get Dialos to show up in Jarburg? I've gotten him in Jarburg, but it's pretty much after you kill Rykard that he shows up there, as far as I know. Is he the guy you hunt down for the manor with whips, or is that someone else? The dude with whips is this guy's brother. Compenda asks, is this whole place like an illusion, technically? No, I think there is an item that says, like, verbatim that this is, like... maybe it's in the tutorial things. Roundtable hold. There's something where... Okay, here it is. The Roundtable hold is a place where tarnished gather guided by grace. Combat, blah, 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 blah. The Roundtable hold is located somewhere not of this world and can only be accessed through a special passage of grace. Can also be accessed by using the map to travel. So, there you go. Mystery solved, by which I mean it's not solved at all. But yeah, it's the way that I look at it is kind of like analogous to like the Hunter's Dream in Bloodborne, or like the Nexus in Demon Souls, which like kind of contrasts the way that I said like the Lands Between is like the Nexus in Demon Souls the other day, or like the Things Betwixt in Dark Souls 2. But it's maybe a little less between than the Lands Between. I don't know how else to say that. Alrighty. Dialos time.
Ah, hello. You must be new here. Well, just call me Dialos. The honor of one's house holds little import in these lands. By the way, have you met a young woman named Lanya on your travels? She's my servant, but fickle as the wind. Take your eyes off her for but a moment and she's good as gone. If you find her, please be sure to tell me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, Spaghetti, that like, because this place burns when the Erd Tree does, but the real Roundtable hold in Leyndell does not, does indicate to me that they're probably more metaphysically connected.
Be sure to tell me if you meet a young woman named Lanya. She's a servant to my house. She's been my companion since childhood. I've lost count of the number of times I've had to find her like this. Honestly, she's such a little tomboy.
Alright, so that's pretty much all he says now, I think.
Be sure to tell me if she's a servant. She's been my companion. I've lost count of the number of times I've had to find her like this. Honestly.
Alright. So that's that. So we can talk to Roderica, Gideon, and Rogier, and then we should go see like the Godwin Rogier thing.
Greetings. Nice to see you again. My name is Roderica. I should have told you sooner. Isn't this place impressive though? The Roundtable hold, covert quarters of the Two Fingers, and gathering place of champions who vie to become Elden Lord. I never knew the guidance bestowed upon us Tarnished had such fantastic roots, although It's all a bit much for me, in truth. I'm still looking for my own purpose.
Yeah, Roderick is weird because we get told that she never once saw Grace, but she still ends up here with all the other Tarnished, and we don't know if she has a maiden to bring her there as well. Like, I've wondered if Melina literally has brought everyone here specifically, and that's like why we can interact with them. Like, Melina is just kind of like playing both sides, so she always ends up on top. But who knows?
It's all a bit much for me, in truth. I'm still looking for my own purpose.
All right, let's talk to Hugh, and then Roderica, and then Hugh, and then Roderica, and then Fia. So coming up to Hugh, we've got like a bunch of random weapons. I think this is the Banished Knight Shield. Yeah, this is definitely the Banished Knight Shield. A great sword. A bunch of the axes. So I don't think there's like really any bunch of like significance to them. We have Banished Knight weapons. This great swords rather. And like the marred wooden shield. Or leather shield rather.
You're a new face. No matter. It's all the same. Lay out your arms. Let's get smithing.
I guess... Oh yeah, I have the tutorials off.
The girly boy here. She's crestfallen and can scarcely swing a blade. But she has a gift for spirit tuning. I saw another one like her long ago. Their eyes share the same hue.
So Roderica having the same hue in her eyes as somebody else that he once knew and being like a spirit tuner is very fascinating and very vexing because like the only other person he ever really talks about is America. So it could imply that America could have been that person. But I mean, to be fair, it's also kind of like there's no reason to really believe it would be America, and it's a little bit too convenient to believe that it would have been her, but I guess we don't really see America's eyes either to compare them. Roderica has green eyes, which is a little bit strange because we don't find anybody else with green eyes either. You wonder if he's looking back to Mikola? Interesting. That could potentially be the case, but I don't know.
I see you've noticed the chains. Nothing special. I'm a prisoner and these are my chains. I'm trapped by the hold. I'm dying, smithing for you fools. That's all there is to it.
I don't remember if he says he's undying in retail. I'm pretty sure like most of the dialogue is the exact same, except for the things that don't like align with the subtitles at times, but no, I think I used his dialogue as evidence of people being undying, so I'm pretty sure that's in retail. Okay. Calling America a spirit tuner is a bit reductive. Why do you think that's reductive specifically? I mean, I know that she's a god and all that and like can shape the Elden Ring, but he may have known her before then. To use another example of talking to an NPC that's typically only aggressive. Capenda says that they think Mikola's connections to spirit tuning based on some dialogue with Rani and this one statue in Fair Missoula of a young person with 3 wolves. So you think the statue in Fair Missoula is of Mikola? That's kind of interesting. I wouldn't assume that at first, just because I feel like Fair Missoula and all the things within it would have predated Mikola's birth, because there's the older style Elden Ring engraving there, which would have existed before Radigan did all his stuff, I would assume. Katie says, the fact that he says that seeing America was terrifying to him and the fact that Gideon was also traumatized by seeing America's true will was always fascinating to me. Yeah, I agree. And that does make me wonder whether or not, like, Melina is an aspect of America, because Melina is sort of terrifying in, like, the Frenzy Flame ending if you, like, let her live. So, yeah, I don't like the idea of America being Melina and Melina being the Gloam-Eyed Queen, but it's also something that I can't really just throw away, which is super annoying. Alright, so he's a prisoner?
No, don't read too much into it. I've no grudge against you. My being a prisoner is no fault of yours. Besides, I don't mind smithing. Despite my differences, the weapons get stronger all the same. Given time, technique never fails. Besides, it helps me forget the sheer terror of her.
Alright, so that's most likely the kind of reference to America that we were just mentioning. Let's go ahead. Oh, I don't have any runes yet. But I can probably put bloody stuff on this. How does this affect my actual damage? It's whatever. We'll figure it out. I'd lose like 40, which is pretty bad, but bleed is probably just way better. We'll see. I'm gonna use a couple runes just to level up. If Marika was just a spirit tuner at one point, then Rogier could be an Empyrean. It's a little bit weird because like we do have the Nox of messing around with spirits, and there is some more explicit connections between the Nox and Empyreans. So there might be something more there than some people might expect, to be honest. Okay, I could use a lot more. Okay. Now let's do this first. Wait, how much do I need? 1190? No, not 1190. Just 1026. So 2 more. A fight against Marika at the height of her power ought to be the reality-bending nightmare fighting a god would be. Yeah. I really do wish that we could have seen like her do something during the fight against Ratigan and or the Elden Beast. Alright, so we talked to Hugh. Let's go back to Rogier. I can't even like switch the handedness of my weapons because we're in the no combat zone.
It's all a bit much for me, in truth. I'm still looking for my own purpose. You're telling me I possess some kind of gift? I don't believe you. But if I do have this talent, and goodness knows it would be my first, I suppose I should try to hone it, shouldn't I? I'll ask Master Hugh to teach me. Certainly he does appear intimidating and holds no love for us tarnished. But I know he's trapped here at the Roundtable Hold, so I can tell. He's a gentle soul underneath it all. If I do have a talent for spirit tuning, and goodness knows that would be a surprise, I suppose I should try to hone it, shouldn't I? I'll ask Master Hugh to teach me. If I do,
Okay.
I'll ask.
So when is FromSoft, had you ever fight someone at the height of their power? Gale, Slave Knight Gale in Dark Souls 3. Or Moon Presence in Bloodborne. Potentially Queen Yarnum. There's a couple times.
Back already. No matter. Lay out your arms.
Yeah, full power Radahn would be really cool to see.
The girl. What about her? Are you out of your mind? Who'd stay with an ugly brute who only knows how to smith? Absurd. Besides, she'd never agree to it. I refuse to believe it. I don't doubt you, but I know when something's too good to be true.
Oh yeah, Sword Saint Ishin. That's probably the best example yet of somebody like at the height of their power, because he's even stronger than like in the base game, because he comes back even more refreshed and youthful. Very, very good point. And he is a monster. Just imagine if you could Sekiro parry Millennia. So we talked to Roderica and Hugh. She done did her thing to become a spirit tuner.
Good to see you again. Thank you very much. I have you to thank, don't I? For persuading Master Hugh. I can happily announce that he has taught me the noble toil of spirit tuning. I'm as yet unsure of what I might be able to accomplish, but if I might be able to help you all, I'd certainly like to try. And if there's any chance to ease the suffering of my dear men who were grafted, well, I certainly must try. Roderica, the Spirit Tuner Apprentice. Pleased to make your acquaintance.
You forgot to unlock and use the McCutie counter for multiple hours in your first playthrough? Rough. Alright, so I think one of the reasons why Hugh can teach Roderica how to become a spirit tuner is because the spirit ashes have spirits in them. Well, let me rephrase that. Like the ashes of war are kind of like versions of spirit ashes that Hugh sort of communes with to imbue weapons with memories of skills that the Tarnish can use. So there's probably a little bit of overlap with what Roderica can do. That'd be like my rationalization for it, but I mean, we don't know if that's actually the case, but I digress. Not enough runes to actually level our stuff up.
Now, look at you. Those eyes tell a story of a challenger who's felled his mark. Fine and well. Now lay out your arms.
We don't know if he's speaking metaphorically about our eyes or literally. With the way that the sore seals and scar seals can be placed onto others, he might be talking in a more literal sense. Because we also see a kind of a similar thing going on with the fire giant, and it's the people of its eyes, and just the idea of grace residing within eyes. So there's a very, very good chance that it's a more of a literal statement. So to add on to that, when you look at Placidusax specifically, its eyes are like completely gilded over, which is kind of cool, but kind of hard to show off unless you're like able to pause the game or something like that. I don't think you can see it in a cutscene or anything, unfortunately. But, right.
I spoke with the girl. She has a gift for spirit tuning, so I told her everything I know. I'm indebted to a spirit tuner I met long ago. It was all I could do to honor her. I'm sorry I doubted you.
This just reminds me that like one day I just want to make a quick clip of you saying like, I don't doubt you, but blah, blah, blah. Sorry I doubted you. Just a mental reminder to do that. Alright, now for this.
Greetings, great champion called by grace. I am Fia. Circumstances have compelled my stay at the Roundtable Hold. Great champion, would you allow me to hold you? But briefly, perhaps you might share with me some of your lively vigor and your stout-heartedness. Doing so will grant me the warmth of a champion, and you, I am sure, will bear a Baldakin's blessing. Do you think it vulgar, perhaps? Where I come from, it is a sacred act.
Right, so I'll refuse her at first because it doesn't really matter. As I've mentioned before in previous videos, Fia is saying she wants to hold us to take some of our lively vigor is a bit of our Ishi, which we've talked about a couple times already in this stream. She wants to take a little bit of our willpower to create a blessing. So it seems like the deathbed companions absorb the will, which is kind of like the equivalent of life, from others to create blessings, and that might tie into the way that she creates the mending rune of the Death Prince. She might literally be taking our life power to create a rune. We don't really know that for sure, but there's a lot of very interesting like mechanical implications of Fia's activities here. So let's refuse for now.
I understand. Your disdain is only natural, but should you change your mind, come pay me another visit. Oh, might had a change of... Ah, my thanks, great champion.
I do wish this animation was faster. It's so slow.
You are very warm.
So if you look at the top left, I probably should have pointed it out a minute ago. We do lose a very small amount of our HP right before she gives us the Baldachin's Blessing. So I'll go to the status menu to just show that off in a second here. And then we do get Baldachin's Blessing. Baldachin, I didn't know this damn word in English, or really even in Japanese. It's like a kind of a curtain over a not like a bed chamber, but like a curtain that separates the bed from like the rest of the room.
What you felt light up inside you was a Baldachin's blessing. Though it is but a fleeting thing, I am afraid. Come back to me, should you require another. I will take you in my arms as often as you need.
And then we got that long-ass animation again. Alright. So we lost... Wait. Why do we have full HP? I saw it go away, and we just got it again? Maybe that's intentional? I don't know. But I did see it flicker. We do have like the photo visual proof if you like go back in the stream the minute or 10 whatever it took for the animation to play. So anyway, putting that aside for now, let's look at the Baldachin Blessing, because this actually has quite a bit of lore, maybe. So this is protection of a hidden shrine that looks much like a bedchamber. Consumes FP to temporarily reduce knockback when taking damage. The seductive light of the firefly allows the viewer to forget bodily aches and pains, if only for a while. Death is only peace, pain is but a promise. So this is a little bit significantly different from the retail build of the game, where, let me look at it exactly. And let me also just paste the text comparison in here. You guys, if you want to look it up yourselves. The retail build says, favor bestowed by a deathbed companion. Protection of a hidden temple in the guise of a bedchamber. Uses FP to temporarily boost poise. The favor allows one to forget any aches and pains. In death, there is only peace, for in death there can be no sensation. So death being tied to sensations and being sensationless is important for just kind of contextualizing what role death is supposed to serve in the Lands Between, and the way that has kind of been forestalled due to the removal of the Rune of Death and the rise of the Golden Order. Because with death removed, spirits continue to fill things because they're not exactly dead, and that's why those who live in death continue to exist. And this will tie into Rogier's dialogue that we're going to see in just a moment here, where he says the dead continue to try earnestly living in Japanese, and that's why they've touched upon a flaw in the Golden Order. Ironically enough, I made a short about that today, if you guys want to check that out as well. Like 30 seconds or whatever. So, interests me in particular about this Baldachin's Blessing for 1.00 specifically is that it makes reference to the Firefly as, let me look at the chat again, Stuffy just brought up as well. And I think this might also inadvertently tie into the Glintstone Firefly, where the light sneaking through might be kind of indicative of a kind of life beyond death. It might be like the visual imagery of like coming out of the womb into a new life, because I mean, it's a bed chamber. That's kind of where life can get implanted. So do with that what you will. One thing that I've wondered about the Glintstone Firefly in relation to the Silver Firefly and the Gold Firefly more specifically is that although it's only in the English version of the game, unfortunately, it says that the Glintstones can no longer mate, or that they've already mated, and that's why they're Glintstone. That's not in Japanese, unfortunately, so I don't actually know how canon it is. It could have been in Japanese and got retconned and could have just kind of lingered in the English translation. I don't know. But if that's the case, I don't know whether that means Glintstone Fireflies were originally gold fireflies or if they were silver fireflies that mated. Maybe both. I don't know. The reason why I think that's significant is it could show potentially that Glintstone and or the Amber of the Cosmos could exist in a couple different forms, and it could deal with how life is harbored within the thing. So let's say like gold is like the base form of life. Glintstone might be gold that's been drained of life because it's being funneled into a new vessel through like reproduction. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if that's true. That's just kind of my base inclination feeling for things, of me trying to make sense of the very little that we have based on very circumstantial evidence that might not really hold up, unfortunately. But yeah. Okay, let me look back at what you guys have been saying. Katie said the inspiration for the Deathbed Companions is pretty disturbing and puts into perspective why she says that we should consider her hugging as being vulgar and why Dee calls her a whore. Yeah. So at first I really didn't understand a lot about the Deathbed Companions, and I thought it was kind of gross and unfortunate that they have like Fia, a kind of independent woman, be so kind of dependent on like a kind of like double entendre for like sex or reproduction in the game, kind of serving the role of a whore, but she's not. She's kind of like the Madonna complex, where she's kind of like a saintly woman in a very vulgar position. So that's kind of how it comes through the game at like a surface level, but as I like dived into the lore a lot more deeply, I've come to appreciate her role more, because it's more nuanced than that. Like it's not as vulgar as it's kind of actually implied to be. Like her hugging us to get part of our life that isn't really isn't as like figurative as it seems, and it does seem to be more literal. And the fact that Deathbed Companions are like one of the few things actually able to give rebirth. So to restate this in a bit of a more positive way, Deathbed Companions are one way of kind of circumventing potentially Erdtree rebirth, because they're able to act as a stopgap between a person's soul leaving their body and getting sucked in through the roots of the Erdtree. So I think that's partially why they're considered so vulgar. Kind of in the same way I think snakes are considered vulgar and taboo and like against the Erdtree, and also potentially why fire may have been seen that way. Because I do think there's a potential that fire could like burn gold, because we do see it like burn down the Erdtree and whatnot, and that could release spirits from the mortal coil, considering how many sets of like spirit ashes and memories we have coming from ashes. Hopefully that makes sense and makes them seem like less nasty than they might at like a surface level. Steffi says, a sense of higher morality like that you feel is usually portrayed as negative in the Soul series. Kind of, yeah. Capenda says, it's just blasphemous to those who are highly devoted to the Golden Order. Yeah, which, is like the dominant religion of the land. And so, I kind of want to talk about the paintings since I just remembered them. But since we just did all that monologuing with Fia, let's go ahead and talk to our boy Rogier. A little bit of a visual glitch there, okay? Katie said, you think it was Muhammad ibn Battuta, sorry for butchering that pronunciation, who recorded the practice which inspired the Deathbed Companions when he visited Kievan Rus and saw Viking Varangian burial. Okay, I have no idea about any of that. If you want to link that in the Discord, do so in the miscellaneous discussion channel. I'd be interested to look that up. Trent said, did someone bring up soap as the most important lore item? I have in the past, but not yet in this playthrough because we haven't gotten it yet. But yes, I do think it is the most important item. Although maybe you're commenting from way earlier and not current. So we'll figure it out. All right. So anyway, Rogier.
We meet again after all. I apologize for any offense given by my bearing, but I'm quite unable to move, you see. So, what do you need?
So, I think now if we talk to him about that corpse under there, he will tell, we'll be able to see his corpse. Well, I mean, we see him, all messed up. So, our boy must stank because he's got all these flies coming out of him. That's a joke, obviously. If you go down to where Godwin is, you can actually see a bunch of insect wings coming out of the Deathroot. So there might be a kind of relationship between these weird ass flies and insects and Deathroot. And he's got this little poncho or whatever cloth on top of him, but if you look beneath, you can actually see the Deathroot coming out of him, and you could also actually see the wings coming out of the Deathroot, like I mentioned. So I don't know if Deathroot is literally giving sprouts to the insects, or if there's something else going on, if it's just pungent enough that it attracts them. It's a little bit weird in either case.
Oh, still need something?
Alright, let's talk about his corpse.
The misshapen corpse under Stormveil. That is a sacred relic of the Black Knives plot, as that famed night of assassination is known. It happened during the golden age of the Erdtree, long before the shattering of the Elden Ring. Someone stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, the Black Blade, and on a bitter night, murdered Godwyn the Golden. That was the first recorded death of a demigod in all history, and it became the catalyst. Soon, the Elden Ring was smashed, and thus sprang forth the war known as the Shattering. I once wished to become a scholar, you see. I've spent many an hour scouring the archives for knowledge of that fateful plot. The world has grown crooked, and if you intend to put it to rights, you'd better understand what happened to make it this way.
And that thing is to blame for the shape I'm in now. I urge the utmost caution. Don't disturb the corpse more than necessary.
Alright, so there is a lot to unpack with that, and I should probably should have paid closer attention, because it's really easy to just forget everything that he says. But when he first talks about the shattering, he mentions how it was the plot of Ronnie, I think you said. Actually, let me look it up. Rather than just trying to remember everything. We've got the text dumps. Okay. So, okay. So, someone stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, the Black Blade, and on that bitter night murdered Godwyn the Golden. And that was the catalyst. Soon the Elden Ring was smashed, and thus sprang forth the war known as the Shattering. So that gives us the kind of pseudo-confirmation that Ronnie and Godwyn would have died before the Shattering, and therefore they shouldn't have had like great runes, because the shattering is what like set the great runes loose that the other demigods picked up. But that's not like too important in terms of like what I wanted to talk about specifically. We don't really have much reason to doubt Rogier, but to be fair, this is kind of secondhand information coming from him. He does seem to be very learned, and there isn't much reason to actually doubt what he says, because like he does kind of solve the Ronnie mystery, but there could be more to the story that he doesn't know, or he might not have all the facts, despite how much he knows. So keep what he says in mind with a bit of a grain of salt, even if there is no like real reason to doubt it. I just like to be very suspicious of character-driven lines of exposition, because the one thing that he says, which is a little bit suspect, is that Godwin was the first recorded death of a demigod in all history. I do think there's an item description which kind of like backs that up, but with that being the case, there is also the very curious examples of all the demigod corpses within the mausoleums. And you could make the argument that those things died before recorded history, but I don't really know. So maybe it's just a little bit of a case of bad writing with Godwin being the first recorded demigod, or if that is actually canonically accurate, it would mean that all of those other demigods died after him and could have been victims after the Night of Black Knives, with Miyazaki saying that that was like the catalyst and it inspired like a demigod hunt in like the confusion of everything. But yeah, okay. Going back to the chat. Capenda asks if I think there are multiple demigods slain on the Night of the Black Knives, Godwin just being the first. I think that's most likely the case, because Miyazaki pretty much says so in an interview. But whether or not there were other demigods that had died beforehand is questionable, because recorded history for Rogier may only extend to the age of the Golden Order, and there could have been demigods that died during the reign of Godfrey that we might not know about. And with that all being said, like the Wandering Mausoleums are of Nox design, which is also very interesting and suspect, considering the Nox's ultimate position and everything. Rogier tells no lies. No, that's the thing. Like, I don't think like many characters lie, but they might not also have like the full truth. There's no other context in which anyone would ever say that sentence. Xavier Livingston, I think I've seen you before. Welcome in. Godfrey's the first Elden Lord despite Placidusax, so maybe the game is loose with the term first. Yeah, and if that's the case, I would really hate it, because it just kind of ruins what authority the item descriptions should have. That doesn't mean that's not the case, but it's just absolutely terrible for like actually trying to parse through what should be factual information. Katie says there's also Ahmad ibn Fadlan who recorded it and not Muhammad ibn Battuta. You're just trying to make me say these names. If it's okay, you'll link Extra History's video about the story, and then I might look for some primary source. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I might not get to it like super quickly, but I would definitely be interested to learn more. Even if it doesn't really have like a lot to do with the game, I'm just interested in a lot of like things like that in general. So yeah, absolutely go for it. And thank you.
So you've met Dee. Dee is an old friend. We found ourselves journeying together for a time, bound by our exploration of death. But our paths have since diverged, never again to cross. Though that's hardly an uncommon fate for two friends.
All right, yeah, and Xavier also brings up really, really good points that we also have the god skins and like when they would have existed, because they shouldn't exist too much. Well, hold on, let me rephrase this. The Glowmide Queen was sealed before the rise of the Golden Order, or rather like in conjunction with the rise of the Golden Order. So the Godskins led by her should have been disbanded, but that would have also been before Godwin was killed. So did the Glowmide Queen and her Godskins not skin any gods during those times? Or did the Godskins only try to get vengeance after the Shattering? Like, no matter which way you slice it, things don't quite add up. So that's why I kind of point to Rogier's dialogue as being a bit more suspect, just because we do have these kind of counter points to like weigh against it. And I might be misremembering whether or not like Godwin is like the first recorded death of a demigod, and there is also the potential that like rather than being first used loosely, that demigod is used more loosely, where like demigod is a reference to Marika's children or not. And to kind of build off of that point, there is a little bit of ambiguity with Marika's children being demigods, because Godfrey is also called a demigod. So does that mean he's her child? Maybe. And that's messed up, but I mean, like, shoot. It's there in the game. So I think if anything, it might be more likely that demigod is used loosely. But even if it is used loosely, that doesn't really help us try to differentiate demigods from like Marika and Godfrey and Radigan's immediate family and the other demigods, I guess. Yeah, you just assume it's family. Okay.
Dee was telling me that he discovered the mark of the centipede. The centipede is an ancient symbol of the curse mark. As long as whoever finds and uses it is not nefarious by nature, then we may be able to form an alliance. If only I could speak to them in person. And if they were like you, all the better.
Thanks, Katie. Alright, so yeah, Rogier saying that like Dee found the one half of the curse mark is just kind of referring back to us meeting him in Summonwater Village, which is very easily skippable, and him finding the mark of the centipede there. That's the other half of the rune that's engraved into Ronnie's body, and that's why Fia will eventually like assassinate Dee to get his half of the rune to take it to the Death Prince. So that's kind of how that story goes. I definitely did not pick all that up on my first playthrough. I had no idea, because I missed Dee in Summonwater Village, I think.
Dee was telling me that he discovered the as long and
yeah, no, I definitely missed Dee, because I came to the Roundtable hold like fairly early.
Ah, you defeated Godric and claimed yourself a great rune. Looks like we both got what we wanted out of Stormveil, didn't we? Well done, friend. Something to mark the occasion. Go on, take it.
So it gives us a really badass rapier, considering that like my weapon's like what, level 4 right now?
As you might have guessed, I still can't move. My fighting days are behind me. No need to be polite. I've no use for it anymore. Dee was telling me that
That's the same. I don't know why I forgot already. So all of his arts are the same. That's pretty much it with him for now. So we can go back to the corpse in Stormveil. I'll probably do that now and then come back to the Roundtable hold, just to like keep everything kind of nicely grouped together. So Rogier's rapier is a piercing sword of superior quality featuring intricate ornamentation. Signature weapon of the sorcerer Rogier. High dexterity is required to wield the blade to its full potential, but mastery is a sight to behold, characterized by a flowing style which excels in successive attacks. The skill is Glint Sword Arc. I think that's renamed. Yeah. Alrighty. Anything else to say about him for now? I don't think so. There's the good potential that he could have been like a carrion knight at some point or something along those lines. He has so many like carrion skills, but it's not like that big a deal if he is or if he isn't. Where are we going? There. Ash of War deals ungodly poise damage. Which one, Katie? He's tarnished, so you kind of doubt it. I mean, there is Moongrum, who's a Carian Knight. I don't know why I thought like going this way would be easier. Doesn't really matter. I think I just wanted to go that way because it's different. Xavier says, if Godfrey is stated to be the first Elden Lord, perhaps he is the first in a way that is unstated, like the first Elden Lord of the Elden Ring after the Fair Missoula Elden Ring. So, I think... Alrighty, hopefully we're back. So, I might have lost connection there real quick. I'm going to wait to see if I come back up on like YouTube's end. Let me go by the statue, and that'll definitely let me know. Or deal with this rats. Okay, looks like I'm good. So what was I just saying? Oh yeah, I was reading the one comment about Godfrey. Let me look back at that. Hey, Davin Sosa, my fault. Welcome back to the stream. Nice to see you again. It's been a while. Xavier said, if Godfrey is stated to be the first Elden Lord, perhaps he's first in a way that is unstated, like the first Elden Lord of the Elden Ring after the Fair Missoula Elden Ring. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think that there's an Elden Lord in the same sense that Godfrey is Elden Lord before him. So even if like Placidus Axe reigned in the era before Godfrey, I don't think that's technically an Elden Lord, and I think like the descriptions are accurate. But yeah, okay. So maybe Godwyn is the first demigod to die after death is sealed. I can see what you mean by that. Because, and like, bro, we don't have the blood splatter. Okay, maybe it's just not in this version of the game. So anyway, in the later patches of the game, there'd be like a blood splatter here that you would interact with, and you'd see Rogier just like kind of like levitate up into the air and just die. And that honestly terrified the crap out of me. The first time I saw it, I was like, oh no, I don't know what's going to go on over here. So I just like ran away, scared out of my mind. But what I didn't know at the time is it was pretty much the Deathblight animation, but you just don't like see a tree coming out of him. Which would probably be just as scary, but it was really, really eerie just seeing the dude like float up like he was being like force impaled or something and die. So let's go back to the Roundtable hold. I guess this is called the Table of Lost Grace. I don't remember if it's actually called the same thing in retail. It probably is. I could just be having a moment there. So I'll leave D again for now until we talk to Malekith, and I'll leave Gideon until we deal with Alberich. Or not. Let's go talk to Ensha and Nefeli. But Nefeli's not going to be here until Gideon moves. Okay. What do you want? Alright, we talked to Ensha. Task failed successfully. Patch 1.0 Wonderland. Good to see you, brother. Thank you, Davin. Nice to see you again. Christina, welcome back in. You said you agree with Xavier. The Golden Order wants to wipe out any evidence of anything different, so the past would fall into that description. That's also a fair point in terms of like saying like first recorded demigod in history. I do want to like double check the one description that says like that Godwyn was the first dead demigod or something along those lines, just to like actually double check the language to see how Facebook official it sounds. Luke Smith, welcome. You said you could also say that the general population would consider Godfrey to be the first since they would be unaware of Placidus Acts in previous orders. You're not wrong. The only issue is typically when they do stuff like that, they have language which says like it is said or it's believed, whereas the Godfrey descriptions in multiple instances are very matter of fact, unfortunately. No Ensha side quest, rip. Yeah, and so as Xavier points out, it's a bit safer to assume that the demigods in the mausoleums would have died on the same night as Godwyn that we know of. Phobos says, off topic, but how did the Twin Blades play in this game? They're interesting. Like, I haven't messed around with them too much yet, so I just got the blood infusion on them, so I'm going to see how well that feels. I'm definitely not used to them in terms of, like, their attack patterns, but they seem pretty decent, especially for, like, crowd control and, like, swiftness of attacks. But, I do wish that the jumping R2 was a little bit, like, had a little bit more range. But the R2s can also stun the Omen so far, so better than the Katana, at least on that front. No bell bearing to offer to the twin maiden husks. So these guys also have much fewer items in this version of the game. You can't get the one talisman that makes like your summons look like you, so you can't use it for mimic tears, unfortunately, for like footage purposes, as I found out. Blah blah blah. This is a lost mystic code enchanted to take the form of a ring. One of the fetishes said to have been bestowed by the two fingers. And that's pretty much just not flavor text. Okay. So these kind of resemble like the cipher pata, and these are like the words of the two fingers. They're just kind of runes. And they're also like, you know, the same as the cipher sword, with hence like white cipher ring. So pretty cool items in terms of like a kind of like diegetic thing. Like just the concept of there like being literal words that you can write into the air to like become physical objects is super cool to me. Right, so we can't go see Dungy, but I think we can kind of still look through the crack in the door and see him. Maybe not though. I don't think he's there. Okay. Either way. One thing that I do like to point out in this room specifically... Wait. I think there's paintings here in retail and there aren't so many banners. But I do know that this room does not look like the room in the Langdell Roundtable hold. Yeah, because there's a painting of America up there on the latest version of the game that's not here right now. Okay. So let's look at the other paintings, I guess, and then deal with Albridge. Bro, I can't believe I've spent so much time just in the Roundtable hold right now. All right. You think it's pretty suspect if Moongrim is tarnished, since Carians tend not to have golden eyes, and Deathblight is pretty unreliable, like with Edgar and Irina. No, Deathblight's been reliable as far as I know. But he is tarnished. I think it says that on his items. Maybe I'm misremembering. Xavier says, you were told by Loki Dark Souls that the It Is Said stuff is just flavor text because it's in like 50% of the item descriptions. I mean, in a certain sense, it is just kind of like flavor text, but in another sense, they do use that very intentionally at times to give them the wiggle room to kind of get away with some red herrings. So one example of that would be in the Radigan icon, which I made a short about the other day, where in the English version of the game, it says like, he learned sorceries from Renala and incantations from America. Like that's how it's just very straightforward in English. But the Japanese says, it is said he learned sorceries from Renala and, well, it said, hold on, let me rephrase that. He learned sorceries from Renala, and it is said he learned incantations as the husband of America. Well, with Radigan being America, there's a very, very good chance he didn't actually learn any incantations from her, and or he already knew them from, like, being her. So that's a kind of thing that works better in the Japanese, because even though, like, it uses it is said, it does give them the wiggle room to, like, make that kind of thing ambiguous and make more sense later on when you have like more context. I'll make a dedicated video to the whole it is said problem, because they do use it very deliberately in all of their games, as far as I've like personally experienced. With that being said, I would say it's definitely overused, because there's so much stuff that just gets open to interpretation because we're not giving exact wording. So I do understand where Loki's coming from, but I would respectfully disagree, because I do think their usage of it is actually significant at times. Corporate says, the Lord of Blood exaltations. Oh yeah, you're just talking about the Twin Blade stuff. Okay. You would have loved to see Two Fingers writing in their death note for a boss fight. Alright. Alright, so this painting is really interesting to me because we have what looks to be Marika standing in front of an Erd tree. I don't know if the Erd tree is technically on fire here or not. I think it does kind of have that appearance, but if it does, it doesn't really match up the kind of depiction of it in Volcano Manor. So I don't really think it's on fire, but I wouldn't be surprised if it actually is. Because the Erd tree that we see now at times also kind of looks like this as well. So I would say 60% chance not on fire, 40% chance it is. But with that being said, we do also know of like there being ash in Leyndell, and Marika at one point did like betray Malekith, and this could have potentially be a depiction like of like the war against the giants and or the dragons, and the Erd tree could have been like burned at one point just because there is all the ash in Leyndell. So yeah, I'll leave that one there for now. What is this? Damn it. Did I break it? Okay. Okay, Katie. Thank you for dropping in as always, and you take care. Hopefully Hugh will repeat his dialogue. Sweet.
Divinity, have mercy and grant me forgiveness. The road is yet long, a god is not easily felled. But one day without fail you will have your wish. So please grant me forgiveness, Queen Marika.
So yeah, Hugh has his prayer to Marika that we can kind of eavesdrop in on, which is very interesting because, like, going back to the crazy theory that I love to hate on, is Marika Melina, who is the Glowmide Queen. We do know that Marika wants to kill a god through Hugh's dialogue, and if the Glowmide Queen was a god slayer, there is that kind of a connection between them, as tenuous as it may be. This portrait right here is just like Marika. It almost looks like she has white hair, so maybe this isn't Marika, but she does seem to have like the same coronet on her head, if that's what that's called. I think that's the right word. We have a depiction of Radigan with his hand sticking out, or maybe it's like a shoulder pauldron. I don't know. It looks like a hand to me. He has red hair and like the little crown on. And we also have a depiction of the Erd tree, which I will probably be able to find a better version of that one to look at in a second here. Xavier said Marika is studying the Golden Order and he can see scrolls and tablets in a room. So couldn't she actually teach him? I guess it would depend if that happened at the same time as Radigan in Raya Lucaria. So the way that I look at it is the Golden Order incantations are based on intelligence, and the Erd Tree Faith ones, which Marika would have known before the Golden Order was established, don't have the intelligence faith scaling requirements at all. So it seems like she wanted to bring an academic approach to understanding incantations, which is kind of where they came up with the idea of the Golden Order and or sealing the Rune of Death. So I don't think Radigan would have really need to learn incantations from her, but with that being said, it is said like Radigan also devised like the Rings of Light, and Mikola also helped him. So the Golden Order stuff, I think, came fairly late in terms of like the creation of incantations. Hugh praised her like she could potentially respond. I mean, she's God. Why couldn't she respond or like hear his prayers, right? Trent says, has it been explored that maybe America wanted Radigan dead? So I think, like, if you consider that Radigan could be an extension of the Elden Beast and or Greater Will, I think that's a potential reading that's valid. But many potential readings are valid, unfortunately. You always thought she had on a veil in that painting, like the mimic veil, potentially? I could see that. Yeah, she's not an omnipotent god, but a man god. All right, so this painting is also very interesting to me because we do have a big-ass Erd tree that's in its all golden glory. And beneath the Erd tree, we just have a bunch of potential cliffs and things like that. I know others have argued that this is like a city down there, but if it is a city, it does not match the topography of Leyndell. The angle at which this painting was painted is not analogous to what we can actually see in the game from whatever painting. There is no divine tower that we can see that would be like down here, like by the cliffs. I guess someone would say like on the bottom right, there's like the, what's it called? The Colosseum, but that's not where it would be because the Colosseum would be like up above, like on like a mountaintop, like in the cliffs over that way instead of like down that way, kind of, if that makes sense with this terrible angle. I don't think that's actually like the mountaintops in the background. It's kind of hard to tell from this painting, but either way, it just doesn't match up with the Altus Plateau as we see it. And so there's a good potential that this Erd tree could have been during the time of Godfrey before the Shattering, and so like the landscape isn't the way that we see it now, but it could also just be like a random artist's rendition that doesn't actually align with anything in the real game world, I guess. So hey guys, all of that analysis just to say, I don't know, I guess. And those are like the major paintings in here, minus the Godfrey and Sarash one, which is a little bit dark. And I think there's another Godfrey and Sarash one elsewhere. And that one is different from the one in like Stormveil. And so, oh yeah, the last thing I did want to say about the Erd tree painting is, if this is like factually accurate in terms of like its representation, it also throws more doubt onto the Stormveil painting, which lacks. The Stormveil painting, which has divine towers but lacks the Erd tree. So you could make the argument that the divine towers don't necessarily predate the Erd tree if this painting is accurate, and the Stormveil one is inaccurate. But you could also argue the opposite if you say that this painting is inaccurate and the Stormveil painting is accurate. Hopefully that like makes sense. I felt like I just kind of repeated myself a lot. Okay. You guys got you wondering who's stronger than Marika and how she was strung up on a rune arc. So the Elden Beast does have a grab attack where it can crucify the player with a rune arc above them in a very similar fashion to the way Marika is strung up. I could have looked at this painting. It has more lighting. So yeah, I don't know if like that's supposed to be the mountaintops of the giants. I think it just kind of looks more like the sky and or clouds. Maybe it is. And maybe the kilns are supposed to be like right there, but it just does not match up with what we actually see in the game. And so if these are cliffs, it almost looks like there's pillars at points. So I can see why some people would think it looks like a city, but that's not how I see it. Rorschach. Alright, let's go fight Alberich. Frenzy Tongue Alberich. Uh-oh. I bled him. That's good news. He has Ice Mist. Oops. I don't know how I didn't get hit by either of those. So he uses ice magic, period, it looks like. Which would be related to Ronnie, I guess? Kind of, but not really. I forgot I like need to keep tapping the button to like keep spinning to winning. I was gonna try to like roll behind him, but I forgot like how much the NPCs just kind of like turn passively, and that's a bad idea. Oof. Welcome to Oofville, population me. Oh, I wasn't expecting so many in a row. Okay. That idiot ran out of juice. Alright. It's a little bit difficult at this level, but it's okay. So we get the Taunter's Tongue, which we can't use because we can't connect to the intranet, which says nothing. Okay. Albrecht is a tricky duel. Oh, I didn't let him. I didn't actually allow him to show off the random fire magic that he was trying to do, did I? Whoops. So as I've pointed out in many of the other places, like Stormveil, we have like the Banished Knight weaponry all throughout here. And one of the bigger differences between this version of the Roundtable Hold and the retail version is there's no burnt corpse here with the Cipher Pata. So all of that for nothing. Nothing. Alright, so we'll just teleport back to the other area of the Roundtable Hold. We do have the goofy looking Sarash banners in here, as well as the goofy looking like potential Erd Tree avatar spirits up at the top, kind of like Stormveil. And we also have the actual like Erd Tree Lanedell defenders in various places. So I do think there's a decent possibility that the Roundtable Hold existed before the rest of Lanedell, just because of like how different the masonry of it is. We do have the saint statues here, which also adorn the bridges going into Lanedell, and I think everything else is probably added in like after the fact, with maybe the exception of like the Banished Knight armor, since the Banished Knights should have been the wings of the Stormlord, which Godfrey fought. Was that a Watchmen reference? I don't even remember what I said. Xavier said, oh, it's the Briars of Sin spell, so maybe he's from the mountains. Yeah. So Albrecht does like have like the red kind of glintstones and stuff. That would be indicative of like the Briars of Sin, I think. Yeah, and he does have... I think he was using the Staff of the Guilty. And I don't remember what scythe it is, because I don't really use scythes too much.
Oh, this is a rare occasion. I can't remember the last time a new tarnished made their way to the Round Table. Very well. As your senior, I bid you welcome. It is safe here. You may let down your guard. Allow me a word of advice. As your senior, you are a mere visitor to the Round Table. Nothing more. A house guest. Yet to earn their keep. Remember your place, newcomer. There's nothing left to say. Be at your leisure. There's nothing left to say. Be at your leisure.
Right, now that we've already beaten Godric, we just need to rest And he'll do his thing. Shimon over to another room. Nefeli should be here now. Yep, okay. Yeah, we'll talk to her next. Keep Gideon's stuff together. Oh man, he's gonna have a lot to say. Holy crap, I forgot. Okay.
What do you need? I have little time to spare. Oh, are you aggrieved at the notion you are but a visitant here? Then you would do well to remember the first words of grace given to you. Stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord. If those words held any meaning to you, follow the guidance of grace. Lay low the shard bearers and claim for yourself a great rune. Do so, and the doors to the Roundtable's inner chamber will open, and you will receive the wisdom of the Two Fingers.
Alright, so this kind of sets off warning bells for me, because why would Gideon know what words were first given to us? It could be because those are just kind of the words that all the Finger Maidens give to their Tarnished, and or B, it could have been him or one of his followers who killed the Finger Maiden that is at the Precipice of Anticipation and wrote those words on the ground. I think like A, that is just like the kind of common knowledge, wisdom that's passed amongst the Finger Maidens is more likely, but just with how nefarious and quote-unquote all-knowing Gideon is, I do think B is an also interesting possibility. Even though I know like a lot of people like to think that Vare is the one that killed her, I could very well easily see it being like Gideon and or his posse.
Once the wisdom of the Two Fingers becomes your own, I'll impart to you a proper welcome. As a true member of the Round Table, I have high hopes for you. I'm sick and tired of them. These namby-pamby tarnished think us no more than a shelter from the rain.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, like, it should also be noted that he says, like, he's not going to welcome us in until we get a Great Rune, and that, like, nobody else has really done it. I think that just kind of shows that we're not the only Tarnished to accomplish this kind of goal. I think, like, what is it? Aeneas says that another Tarnished had, like, brought two together, and it's been, like, so long since she's seen that. And it wouldn't make much sense for one Tarnished, or, like, multiple Tarnished to be able to do that if the demigods are a thing. Like, if anything, it would make more sense, like, to kill other random Tarnished throughout the game rather than the demigods. So I do think of it as like a multiple world layered multiverse kind of thing going on, rather than just like him needing us to kill all of the demigods for him. Although that would be quite funny for like his characterization if that was actually the case.
We've spoken long enough. I have matters to attend to.
Alright,
We've spoken.
guess that's it. So I think I might need to rest again and or like go see the Two Fingers next.
You again. I thought you'd receive a summons to the Round Table. Nefeli Lu. We met at Stormveil. I'm glad to see you here. I have something for you. I found it in Godric's grafting grounds. You defeated him. You should have it. Make good use of it. I don't intend to make a habit of scavenging corpses.
The Arsenal Charm. Brilliant.
Ah, yes. I wonder if you've met my foster father. He's in his study. The room Ensha's guarding just over there. If you haven't already, I advise you introduce yourself. Father is leader of the Round Table. I'm sure talking to him will be worth your while.
Pretty straightforward stuff. We learned that Gideon is her foster father, rather than just like her father. I don't think she calls him foster father in the Stormveil meeting place.
It's about time I headed off. I'll see you again, warrior, should the fates deign it.
Alright, so that's pretty much it with Nefeli, obviously. What did she just hand us? The Arsenal Charm. An iron charm that resembles a mass of weapons boosts maximum equipment weight. This talisman was derived from an unusual greatsword once wielded by a hero hungry for vengeance. So this sounds like the Revenger of some sort, which kind of like goes with the grafted greatsword motif. How much physical defense is this actually? Oops. Wait, what? It says 0.7 with like a blue number? Is that just more? I guess? I think they changed that. Okay. So I'm pretty sure the door is still closed here, so we need to rest again. Okay. I wonder if I broke the sequence of things by killing Godric before coming here.
We've spoken long enough.
That's strange. Maybe I just need to kill another demigod then. Or like teleport in and out rather than just like the fast thing.
Be sure to tell me if you meet a young woman. She's honest.
Alright, so I think that's pretty much it then. I'm gonna teleport back in here real quick just to see if that like speeds things along. Oh, there's like no loading text. I forgot about that. Oops, didn't mean to do that.
We've spoken long.
Alright, so that's it for the Roundtable hold for now. So I think with that being said, I will finish off by like looking at a couple things in the Weeping Peninsula and then picking back up there tomorrow. I'm going to go to the Church of Pilgrimage because it's super cool. And then I'll probably also talk about that at the beginning of tomorrow's stream. So I know you're supposed to go the other way, kind of, but you can kind of make your way this way as well by jumping over everything. There do seem to be like a lot more Trina's lilies, or maybe there always were and I just never noticed. Root resin above the ground, but it is kind of near catacombs. Ridley flower. Rainbow stone. Alright, so this is what I would call a helphin tree. It's a lampwood, and in the Japanese it's a little bit more explicit that these trees in particular guide renowned spirits to like the afterlife. So if we follow the spirit that this summons, it should take us to a catacomb with which what I would assume would have like a higher tier like spirit summon than the normal ones. So I might come back to this one tomorrow. Demi-human forest ruins. We'll leave the demi-queen alone. Demi-human queen alone for now. We got a bunch of the Miranda flowers in the distance. And dudes on their way to see the church. Alright, so as we come into the Church of Pilgrimage, rather than a statue of Mariko or something else, we have a statue of what is clearly meant to be Radigan with the kind of like seal behind him that you'd see like on the Rey Lucarian gates. So that kind of resembles the T-pose of not just like the Star Colors, but just like the portrait that we were just looking at in the Roundtable hold. This is probably like a better angle for it. So he does have like the little crown and like his hand is coming out there. And that's also just like the Golden Order incantation typos for a few things, like Radigan's Rings of Light, I think. So, in addition to that, we do get some golden centipedes in this church specifically, probably to like indicate a more close connection between like the Golden Order and the Statue of Radigan. You didn't know that was the reward for those? Reward for what? The tear flasks, or oh yeah. Uh-oh, I woke up those who lived in death. So yeah, I didn't intend to talk about those, but I may as well in a second here. The remains of a golden centipede, symbol of the rune of death, material used for crafting items. It's a little bit less text than in the retail build, but one of the more interesting things to me about like these kinds of churches in general is that they also are typically next to cemeteries, which just kind of goes into how I've talked about. I think they've been appropriated from previous religions, because if they were connected to the Erd Tree and stuff, you'd imagine that they wouldn't want cemeteries in places away from like the Erd Tree's roots. And we also have a spirit jellyfish, probably because it's a graveyard. But why a jellyfish there instead of like the other stuff, I don't know. Now, the whole reason why I really wanted to come over here before ending the stream is for this guy. A commoner ghost with this to say. The mausoleum prowls, cradling failed champions within. O America, Queen Eternal, it cradles a misshapen bastard of yours. So this is a bit of a departure where it says like this, I think like the slumbering demigods like sleeps within, whereas this one calls them like failed champions rather than demigods. So there is another item that relates to like Malekith that's a little bit different in Japanese, where it says like the champions were afraid of Malekith, and in English it says like they knew it was at stake, but the Japanese is just more like, oh, they faced Malekith and they knew fear, and it's because of that fear that they were champions. So that just kind of aligns more with like this ghost's dialogue for now. So yeah, I'll definitely talk about that ghost again at the beginning of next stream. So for all of you who've stayed in and commented so far for the night, and all of you watching live and or after the fact, I do appreciate that. And thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. I will be going live again tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hope you all have a good night and take care, and catch you on the next one. Last Protagonist out.